Good evening, my friend. Let the day now become quiet. Let the outer world loosen its hold upon you. Let the things you have seen, the things you have heard, the things you have feared, and the things you have hoped for begin to lose their sharpness. This hour is not like the hour of the day. The day demands effort. The day asks questions. The day shows you appearances and then tempts you to call them final. But the night invites you inward. The night asks nothing from the senses. The night does not ask you to struggle. The night does not ask you to chase. The night opens a door within consciousness, and tonight I want you to enter that door in a new way. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Let those words fall softly into you. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Whatever it is that you have been seeking, whatever it is that has seemed to stand in front of you as a future blessing, a future answer, a future change, a future relief, tonight, I do not want you to reach forward toward it in the old way. I do not want you to lie here as one who is waiting for tomorrow to be kind. I do not want you to fall asleep in the state of someday. I want you to learn how to let the desire feel as though it already belongs to the past of the fulfilled self, not the past of the old self, not the memory of what went wrong, not the memory of delay, not the memory of lack, but the inner memory of the one who has already received, the memory of the fulfilled state, the memory of the life where the thing once desired has already become natural. For this is the strange and wonderful reversal that I will unfold for you tonight. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest backward into the fulfilled fact. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest backward into the fulfilled fact. You are not going to strain toward an event that seems to be approaching. You are not going to stretch the mind toward a distant future and hope that one day the world will catch up. You are going to let yourself enter the consciousness of one for whom the desire is no longer future. You are going to move inwardly to the place where it has already happened, where it is already settled, where it is no longer surprising, no longer uncertain, no longer something you are trying to force into being. This night is not for effort. This night is for return. The world has taught man to wait. It has taught him to say, when I have this, then I shall rest. When I receive that, then I shall be at peace. When the door opens, then I shall believe. When the person comes, then I shall feel loved. When the money appears, then I shall feel secure. When the body changes, then I shall feel whole. When the work succeeds, then I shall feel established. And because man repeats this inwardly, he falls asleep in the state of not yet loved, not yet supplied, not yet chosen, not yet healed, not yet free. And the state of not yet, though it may wear the clothing of hope, is still a state of distance. It still says, the thing is not mine now. It still places fulfillment beyond the present consciousness. It still waits for life to grant permission. But consciousness is the only place where permission is truly given. The world reflects the state that has been accepted. It does not create the state for you. It answers the state you have entered. So tonight I ask you to listen in a new way. Do not listen as one gathering instructions to perform with effort. Do not lie here thinking you must stay awake, concentrate fiercely, and hold every word. No, that is not the spirit of this night. You may rest, you may soften, you may allow these words to move beneath your ordinary thinking. You may even fall asleep while they continue to work upon the deep. The purpose is not to make the mind tense. The purpose is to release the mind from its old direction. For most men imagine in the wrong direction. They look forward. They say, I see it coming. I see it approaching. I see myself moving toward it. I see the day when it finally happens. But even this, if not understood, may keep the desire ahead of them. It may keep the fulfilled state just beyond the reach of I am. It may keep them as the one who is still on the road, still waiting, still hoping, still measuring the distance between now and the event. But I say to you, the desire that feels future remains distant. The desire that feels remembered begins to belong to you. The desire that feels future remains distant. The desire that feels remembered begins to belong to you. A future desire may excite you, but it may still leave you reaching. A remembered desire quiets you because it carries the feeling of possession. It does not ask, will it happen? It does not ask, when will it arrive? It does not ask. It does not beg tomorrow to become different. It rests in the simple inward knowledge. It happened. It is done. It is mine. It has already taken its place in the story of my fulfilled life. Now do not try to understand all of this with effort. Let it be received slowly. A memory has a peculiar quality. It is not anxious. It is not begging to be believed. It does not tremble before the senses. You may remember a simple meal you had, a conversation you heard, a room you entered, a street you walked, a hand you touched, a letter you received, a quiet hour that passed. You do not struggle to make it real. You do not say perhaps it happened, perhaps it did not. You simply know. It has the quiet weight of something already lived. Tonight, I am going to ask you to bring that same quiet weight to the thing you desire, not the pressure of trying to manifest, not the fever of force, not the restless emotion of waiting for signs, but the calm inward tone of something already lived, something already settled, something that belongs to you so naturally that you no longer have to chase it. You have chased enough, you have waited enough, you have asked when enough, you have fallen asleep in the state of reaching enough. Now, let the night teach you a gentler way. There is an inward position beyond the moment of receiving. This is very important. Many imagine the instant when the desire arrives, the first shock, the first proof, the first door opening. And that can be useful, but tonight we go deeper. Tonight we move beyond arrival. We move beyond the first moment of change. We move beyond the trembling excitement of something new. We enter the quiet after, the ordinary after, the state where the fulfilled reality has already become your life. If it is wealth, you are not merely seeing money arrive. You are resting in the life where provision has already become normal. If it is love, you are not merely seeing love appear. You are resting in the life where being loved is already familiar. If it is healing, you are not merely seeing the first sign of recovery. You are resting in the body after peace has returned. If it is success, you are not merely seeing the door open. You are resting in the life where that success has already become part of who you know yourself to be. And from there, from that ordinary after, you will learn to look back. Not forward, but back. Not as one hoping, but as one remembering. Not as one saying, will it happen? But as one saying, I remember when it did. I remember when everything changed. I remember when the burden lifted. I remember when the word came. I remember when the door opened. I remember when it became mine. This is the reversal. This is the secret movement. This is the inward turn that collapses the old feeling of distance. You do not stand before your desire as though it were a mountain far away. You stand beyond it. You stand after it. You stand in the fulfilled state and look back upon the moment when it became visible. And as you do this, the old sense of waiting begins to dissolve. You are not asked to force this. You are not asked to produce a great emotion at once. You are not asked to see everything clearly. You are not asked to remain awake like a watchman guarding a gate. You may become drowsy. You may drift. You may hear only part of what is said. That is well. The night is not a classroom of strain. The night is a temple of impression. Let the words fall where they need to fall. Let the feeling become more important than the understanding. Let the body learn the tone of already done. This night is not for effort. This night is for return. Return from the future. Return from someday. Return from not yet. Return from waiting. Return from the road. Return from asking how. Return from asking when. Return from looking outward for permission. Return to the fulfilled fact within consciousness. There is a self within you who has already received. This self is not far away. It is not hidden in the calendar. It is not waiting for time to manufacture it. It is a state. It is a state of consciousness, and all states are available now. The loved self is available. The supplied self is available now. The healed self is available now. The successful self is available now. The free self is available now. The peaceful self is available now. You have only believed that time stands between you and this self. But often, it is not time. It is identification. You have identified with before it happens, before the money comes, before the relationship settles, before the answer arrives, before the body is well, before the door opens, before the freedom appears. And because you identified with before, life seemed to keep showing you before. Tonight we begin to identify with after it happened, after it came, after it was settled, after the word was spoken, after the burden was lifted, after the answer arrived, after the state became natural. This is not a trick. This is not pretending in the shallow sense. This is the spiritual art of moving consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality, and the world of appearances follows consciousness. When you assume a state, you do not merely think differently. You change the center from which life is seen. You change the place where you stand inwardly, and when you stand after the fulfillment, The old road loses its power over you. You may still see the same room around you tonight, the same walls, the same bed, the same darkness, the same circumstances may appear to be waiting beyond sleep, but the outer world is not your master. It is the echo of states. Tonight, do not ask the echo whether you may enter the end. Enter the end. Do not ask the shadow whether the light is real. Turn to the light. Do not ask the calendar whether consciousness may be fulfilled now. Consciousness is now. And if the mind says, but it has not happened yet, answer gently, I am learning to remember it from the fulfilled state. If the mind says, when will it come? Answer gently, I am moving. If the mind says, how can I remember what has not appeared? Answer gently, I am remembering what is already true in consciousness. If the mind says, this is difficult, answer gently, this night is not for effort, this night is for return. You may feel even now the first relief of this. You do not have to hold the desire above you like a star you cannot reach. You do not have to lie awake trying to pull the future toward you. You do not have to struggle to make the world change before you are allowed to rest. You may rest first. You may rest in the after. You may rest in the quiet knowledge that the fulfilled state is nearer than the future ever seemed. The future is a movement of thought. The state is here. The future says later. The state says, I am. The future says, not yet. The state says, already. The future says, wait. The state says, remember. And so tonight I speak to the one who can remember. I speak to the one who can stop reaching forward and begin resting backward into the fulfilled fact. I speak to the one who does not need to solve the road tonight. I speak to the one who may fall asleep in a new direction. Let the body begin to understand. If it were already done, would the breath be so tight? If it had already happened, would the chest be holding tomorrow? If the desire were already part of your life, would the jaw need to argue? If the fulfilled state were already accepted, would the shoulders need to carry the bridge? Let the body soften, not because you are escaping life, but because you are returning to cause. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Let that be the first doorway. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Not with force, not with strain, not with the sharpness of the day. Remember it softly. Remember it as one who has already lived beyond the moment of receiving. Remember it as one who is no longer surprised by the good, because the good has become normal. Remember it as one who has already passed through the old question. Remember it as one who can say inwardly, yes, that happened. Yes, it became mine. Yes, I remember when it changed. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest backward into the fulfilled fact. And if you fall asleep before you understand the whole of it, nothing is lost. Sleep may understand what the waking mind does not yet hold. The subconscious receives not only words, but tone, state, feeling, identity. Let it receive tonight the beginning of a new direction. Let it receive the feeling that the desire is not waiting far ahead. Let it receive the feeling that the fulfilled life can be remembered. Let it receive the feeling of after. The desire that feels future remains distant. The desire that feels remembered begins to belong to you. Let it belong to you now. Let love belong to you now. Let supply belong to you now. Let healing belong to you now. Let success belong to you now. Let freedom belong to you now. Let peace belong to you now. Not by grabbing, not by pleading, not by exhausting the mind, but by remembering from the state where it is already so. This night is not for effort. This night is for return. Return quietly, return inwardly, return from the future to the fulfilled. Return from hoping to knowing, return from before to after. And as these words continue, you may let your eyes grow heavy. You may let your body become still. You may let the day fall behind you. You may let the old future dissolve. You may begin to sense that there is another way to imagine, another way to pray, another way to sleep, not reaching, remembering, not waiting, remembering, not forcing, remembering, not asking when, remembering, tonight, do not wait. Let the fulfilled reality come near, not as something approaching, but as something already lived in consciousness. Let it come near as a memory. Let it come near as a fact. Let it come near as the quiet after. And as the night receives you, begin to let yourself receive it. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest backward into the fulfilled fact. And softly, slowly, without effort, you may begin now. Good evening, my friend. Let the day now become. Let the outer world loosen its hold upon you. Let the things you have seen, the things you have heard, the things you have feared, and the things you have hoped for begin to lose their sharpness. This hour is not like the hour of the day. The day demands effort. The day asks questions. The day shows you appearances and then tempts you to call them final. But the night invites you inward. The night asks nothing from the senses. The night does not ask you to struggle. The night does not ask you to chase. The night opens a door within consciousness. And tonight, I want you to enter that door in a new way. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Let those words fall softly into you. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Whatever it is that you have been seeking, whatever it is that has seemed to stand in front of you as a future blessing, a future answer, a future change, a future relief, tonight I do not want you to reach forward toward it in the old way. I do not want you to lie here as one who is waiting for tomorrow to be kind. I do not want you to fall asleep in the state of someday. I want you to learn how to let the desire feel as though it already belongs to the past of the fulfilled self, not the past of the old self, not the memory of what went wrong, not the memory of delay, not the memory of lack, but the inner memory of the one who has already received, the memory of the fulfilled state, the memory of the life where the thing once desired has already become natural. For this is the strange and wonderful reversal that I will unfold for you tonight. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest backward into the fulfilled fact. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest backward into the fulfilled fact. You are not going to strain toward an event that seems to be approaching. You are not going to stretch the mind toward a distant future and hope that one day the world will catch up. You are going to let yourself enter the consciousness of one for whom the desire is no longer future. You are going to move inwardly to the place where it has already happened, where it has already settled, where it is no longer surprising, no longer uncertain, no longer something you are trying to force into being. This night is not for effort. This night is for return. The world has taught man to wait. It has taught him to say, when I have this, then I shall rest. When I receive that, then I shall be at peace. When the door opens, then I shall believe. When the person comes, then I shall feel loved. When the money appears, then I shall feel secure. When the body changes, then I shall feel whole. When the work succeeds, then I shall feel established. And because man repeats this inwardly, he falls asleep in the state of not yet loved, not yet supplied, not yet chosen, not yet healed, not yet free, not yet successful, not yet safe. And the state of not yet, though it may wear the clothing of hope, is still a state of distance. It still says the thing is not mine now. It still places fulfillment beyond the present consciousness. It still waits for life to grant permission. But consciousness is the only place where permission is truly given. The world reflects the state that has been accepted. It does not create the state for you. It answers the state you have entered. So tonight, I ask you to listen in a new way. Do not listen as one gathering instructions to perform with effort. Do not lie here thinking you must stay awake, concentrate fiercely, and hold every word. No, that is not the spirit of this night. You may rest. You may soften. You may allow these words to move beneath your ordinary thinking. You may even fall asleep while they continue to work upon the deep. The purpose is not to make the mind tense. The purpose is to release the mind from its old direction. For most men imagine in the wrong direction. They look forward. They say, I see it coming. I see it approaching. I see myself moving toward it. I see the day when it finally happens. But even this, if not understood, may keep the desire ahead of them. It may keep the fulfilled state just beyond the reach of I am. It may keep them as the one who is still on the road, still waiting, still hoping, still measuring the distance between now and the event. But I say to you, the desire that feels future remains distant. The desire that feels remembered begins to belong to you. The desire that feels future remains distant. The desire that feels remembered begins to belong to you. A future desire may excite you, but it may still leave you reaching. A remembered desire quiets you, because it carries the feeling of possession. It does not ask, will it happen? It does not ask, when will it arrive? It does not ask, am I? It does not beg tomorrow to become different. It rests in the simple inward knowledge. It happened. It is done. It is mine. It has already taken its place in the story of my fulfilled life. Now, do not try to understand all of this with effort. Let it be received slowly. A memory has a peculiar quality. It is not anxious. It is not begging to be believed. It does not tremble before the senses. You may remember a simple meal you had, a conversation you heard, a room you entered, a street you walked, a hand you touched, a letter you received, a quiet hour that passed. You do not struggle to make it real. You do not say, perhaps it happened, perhaps it did not. You simply know. It has the quiet weight of something already lived. Tonight, I am going to ask you to bring that same quiet weight to the thing you desire, not the pressure of trying to manifest, not the fever of forcing belief, not the restless emotion of waiting for signs, but the calm inward tone of something already lived, something already settled, something that belongs to you so naturally that you no longer have to chase it. You have chased enough. You have waited enough. You have asked when enough. You have fallen asleep in the state of reaching enough. Now, let the night teach you a gentler way. There is an inward position beyond the moment of receiving. This is very important. Many imagine the instant when the desire arrives, the first shock, the first proof, the first door opening, and that can be useful. But tonight we go deeper. Tonight we move beyond arrival. We move beyond the first moment of change. We move beyond the trembling excitement of something new. We enter the quiet after, the ordinary after, the state where the fulfilled reality has already become your life. If it is wealth, you are not merely seeing money arrive. You are resting in the life where provision has already become normal. If it is love, you are not merely seeing love appear. You are resting in the life where being loved is already familiar. If it is healing, you are not merely seeing the first sign of recovery. You are resting in the body after peace has returned. If it is success, you are not merely seeing the door open. You are resting in the life where that success has already become part of who you know yourself to be. And from there, from that ordinary after, you will learn to look back, not forward, but back, not as one hoping, but as one remembering, not as one saying, will it happen, but as one saying, I remember when it did. I remember when everything changed. I remember when the burden lifted. I remember when the word came. I remember when the door opened. I remember when it became mine. This is the reversal. This is the secret movement. This is the inward turn that collapses the old feeling of distance. You do not stand before your desire as though it were a mountain far away. You stand beyond it. You stand after it. You stand in the fulfilled state and look back upon the moment when it became visible. And as you do this, the old sense of waiting begins to dissolve. You are not asked to force this. You are not asked to produce a great emotion at once. You are not asked to see everything clearly. You are not asked to remain awake like a watchman guarding a gate. You may become drowsy. You may drift. You may hear only part of what is said. That is well. The night is not a classroom of strain. The night is a temple of impression. Let the words fall where they need to fall. Let the feeling become more important than the understanding. Let the body learn the tone of already done. This night is not for effort. This night is for return. Return from the future. Return from someday. Return from not yet. Return from waiting. Return from the road. Return from asking how. Return from asking when. Return from looking outward for permission. Return to the fulfilled fact within consciousness. There is a self within you who has already received. This self is not far away. It is not hidden in the calendar. It is not waiting for time to manufacture it. It is a state. It is a state of consciousness, and all states are available now. The loved self is available now. The supplied self is available now. The healed self is available now. The successful self is available now. The free self is available now. The peaceful self is available now. You have only believed that time stands between you and this self. But often it is not time. It is identification. You have identified with before. Before it happens. Before the money comes. Before the relationship settles. Before the answer arrives. Before the body is well. Before the door opens. Before the freedom appears. And because you identified with before, life seemed to keep showing you before. Tonight, we begin to identify with after. After it happened. After it came. After it was settled. After the word was spoken. After the burden was lifted. After the answer arrived. After the state became natural. This is not a trick. This is not pretending in the shallow sense. This is the spiritual art of moving consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality, and the world of appearances follows consciousness. When you assume a state, you do not merely think differently. You change the center from which life is seen. You change the place where you stand inwardly. And when you stand after the fulfillment, the old road loses its power over you. You may still see the same room around you tonight, the same walls, the same bed, the same darkness, The same circumstances may appear to be waiting beyond sleep, but the outer world is not your master. It is the echo of states. Tonight, do not ask the echo whether you may enter the end. Enter the end. Do not ask the shadow whether the light is real. Turn to the light. Do not ask the calendar whether consciousness may be fulfilled now. Consciousness is now, and if the mind says, but it has not happened yet, answer gently, I am learning to remember it from the fulfilled state. If the mind says, when will it come? Answer gently. If the mind says, how can I remember what has not appeared? Answer gently, I am remembering what is already true in consciousness. If the mind says, this is difficult, answer gently, this night is not for effort. This night is for return. You may feel even now the first relief of this. You do not have to hold the desire above you like a star you cannot reach. You do not have to lie awake trying to pull the future toward you. You do not have to struggle to make the world change before you are allowed to rest. You may rest first. You may rest in the after. You may rest in the quiet knowledge that the fulfilled state is nearer than the future ever seemed. The future is a movement of thought. The state is here. The future says later. The state says I am. The future says not yet. The state says already. The future says wait. The state says remember. And so tonight, I speak to the state within you. I speak to the one who can remember. I speak to the one who can stop reaching forward and begin resting backward into the fulfilled fact. I speak to the one who does not need to solve the road tonight. I speak to the one who may fall asleep in a new direction. Let the body begin to understand. If it were already done, would the breath be so tight? If it had already happened, would the chest be holding tomorrow? If the desire were already part of your life, would the jaw need to argue? If the fulfilled state were already accepted, would the shoulders need to carry the bridge? Let the body soften, not because you are escaping life, but because you are returning to cause. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Let that be the first doorway. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Not with force, not with strain, not with the sharpness of the day. Remember it softly. Remember it as one who has already lived beyond the moment of receiving. Remember it as one who is no longer surprised by the good, because the good has become normal. Remember it as one who has already passed through the old question. Remember it as one who can say inwardly, yes, that happened. Yes, it became mine. Yes, I remember when it changed. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest backward into the fulfilled fact. And if you fall asleep before you understand the whole of it, nothing is lost. Sleep may understand what the waking mind does not yet hold. The subconscious receives not only words, but tone, state, feeling, identity. Let it receive tonight the beginning of a new direction. Let it receive the feeling that the desire is not waiting far ahead. Let it receive the feeling that the fulfilled life can be remembered. Let it receive the feeling of after. The desire that feels future remains distant. The desire that feels remembered begins to belong to you. Let it belong to you now. Let love belong to you now. Let supply belong to you now. Let healing belong to you now. Let success belong to you now. Let freedom belong to you now. Let peace belong to you now. Not by grabbing, not by pleading, not by exhausting the mind, but by remembering from the state where it is already so. This night is not for effort. This night is for return. Return quietly. Return inwardly. Return from the future to the fulfilled fact. Return from waiting to remembering. Return from hoping to knowing. Return from before to after. And as these words continue, you may let your eyes grow heavy. You may let your body become still. You may let the day fall behind you. You may let the old future dissolve. You may begin to sense that there is another way to imagine, another way to pray, another way to sleep. Not reaching, remembering. Not waiting, remembering. Not forcing, remembering. Not asking when, remembering. Tonight, do not wait for it. Remember it. Let the fulfilled reality come near, not as something approaching, but as something already lived in consciousness. Let it come near as a memory. Let it come near as a fact. Let it come near as the quiet after. And as the night receives you, begin to let yourself receive it. You are not going to reach forward into tomorrow. You are going to rest, and softly, slowly, without effort, you may begin now. Now let us go deeper, quietly, into the mystery of time. For time is one of the great enchantments under which man lives. He looks at the world and sees morning, noon, and night. He sees childhood, youth, age, he sees yesterday behind him and tomorrow before him. He sees events arranged as though they were beads upon a string, one after another, each one apparently requiring the next to be reached. And because his senses report life this way, he believes consciousness must also be bound in the same manner. But consciousness is not bound as the senses are bound. The outer world appears to move in sequence. It has its rising sun and setting sun, its seasons, its clocks, its waiting rooms, its roads, its letters written and answered, its doors closed and opened. The world of appearances seems to say, this first, then that, here first, then there, now first, but this is the arrangement of shadows. It is the order in which things become visible. It is not the order in which they are born. Creation is born in consciousness, and consciousness is always now. Consciousness does not create from later. Consciousness creates from now. Let that be heard slowly. Consciousness does not create from later. Consciousness creates from now. It cannot create from a future you have not entered a state, because the future, as men commonly imagine it, is not a place where the creative power lives. You cannot stand in tomorrow to create today. You cannot receive in someday. You cannot be fulfilled in a moment you are only waiting for. You can only ever be conscious now. And what you are conscious of being now is what begins to take form. The common mind says, I am here, and my desire is there. It says, I am in this present circumstance, and the fulfilled life is somewhere ahead. It says, I must travel through time to reach it. I must wait for enough days, enough movements, enough conditions, enough changes, and then perhaps I shall arrive. But spiritually, this is not the truth. You do not travel through time to become fulfilled. You enter the fulfilled state now. You do not travel through time to become fulfilled. You enter the fulfilled state now. The fulfilled state is not hiding in a distant year. It is not waiting at the end of a corridor called the future. It is not locked inside tomorrow, requiring the world to carry you there by force. It is a state of consciousness, and because it is a state of consciousness, it is nearer than the next hour. It is nearer than the next day. It is nearer than the next sign. It is nearer than your breath. The future is not a place where your desire is waiting. It is a state. This is a profound freedom if you will receive it. The future is not a place where your desire is waiting. It is a state you have not yet entered. When you say, my desire is in the future, you may be deceived by the senses. You may be speaking from the surface of life. But when you enter the state of the fulfilled desire, that which seemed future begins to feel inwardly present, not necessarily visible to the senses at once, but present in being, present in feeling, present in identity, present in the deep. And the deep is where the visible is formed. There are many states in consciousness. There is the state of lack and the state of supply, the state of longing and the state of being loved, the state of fear and the state of peace, the state of waiting and the state of having received, the state of illness and the state of wholeness, the state of failure and the state of success, the state of bondage and the state of freedom. Man moves through these states and calls the movement life, but he does not always know he is moving. He thinks the world is moving him. He thinks time is carrying him. He thinks events are deciding his inner being. But the awakened man begins to see that he is moving in consciousness. What men call the future is often only consciousness not yet accepted. Let that rest upon. What men call the future is often only consciousness not yet accepted. The life you name future may be a state you have not consented to as present identity. The love you call future may be the state of being loved, not yet accepted. The wealth you call future may be the state of supply, not yet inhabited. The healing you call future may be the state of wholeness, not yet worn. The success you call future may be the state of accomplishment, not yet entered. The peace you call future may be the state of rest, not yet allowed. And so man waits, not always because time requires it, but because he has not yet entered the state that would make waiting unnecessary. The senses are useful, but they are late. They tell you what has become visible after consciousness has accepted states. They are not the source, they are reporters. They are messengers from the outer field. But the reporter does not write the law. The messenger does not create. The senses can tell you what seems to be. They cannot tell you what you must now accept as being. That power belongs to imagination, to consciousness, to I am. This is why I say the outer world is the world of sequence, but consciousness is the eternal present. The outer world says, here is what has happened. Consciousness says, what are you now? The outer world says, wait until the event appears. Consciousness says, enter the state. Consciousness says, is it accepted? The outer world says, later. Consciousness says, I am. I am is never later. I am is never tomorrow. I am is not waiting to become conscious. I am is. The divine name within you is present being. If you attach to I am the feeling of waiting, then waiting becomes your state now. If you attach to I am the feeling of fulfillment, then fulfillment becomes your state now. It answers present identity. A man may say, I will be rich, but if I am now poor in feeling, poor in assumption, poor in identity, the future words do not save him. Another may say, very little, but inwardly, sleep as one supplied, and the state begins its work. A man may say, I will be loved, but if I am now rejected in feeling, rejection is the present state. Another may rest quietly as one chosen, and love begins to. A man may say, I will be free, while inwardly he remains bound. Another may breathe from freedom now, and the old chain begins to lose its authority. The difference is not in time, the difference is in state. The common mind thinks it is traveling toward the desire. It imagines itself walking a long road. At the end of the road, the desire waits. At the end of the road, the man will become different. At the end of the road, peace will be permitted. But the spiritual mind knows there is a deeper movement. It does not travel toward the desire. It enters the state of the desire fulfilled, and then the road appears beneath its feet. The road is secondary. The state is first. Do not ask tonight how far away your desire is in time. Ask how near the state is in consciousness. And the answer is, it is near. The state is always near, because consciousness is not separated from its states by miles or years. A state may feel far only because you have practiced another one so faithfully. Lack may feel familiar. Waiting may feel familiar. Fear may feel familiar. But familiarity is not truth. It is repetition. And what has been repeated can be replaced by a new acceptance. If you have slept for many nights as one waiting, do not condemn yourself. You were not failing. You were learning unconsciously how powerful state is. Now you learn consciously. If you have imagined your desire as someday, do not despair. You have simply placed it ahead. Now you may bring it into present consciousness. If you have believed that time must carry you to fulfillment, let that belief soften. Time may carry the expression, but consciousness carries the cause. A seed is hidden beneath the earth before the flower is seen. The ignorant man may think the flower begins the day he sees it, but the life of the flower was moving long before the eye reported it. So it is with your desire. The world may not yet report the flower, but the state is the seed. If the state is accepted now, the unseen work begins now. Do not confuse the day of visibility with the day of creation. Creation begins in consciousness. Consciousness creates from now. Therefore, the fulfilled reality must be entered now, not as a visible event perhaps, but as a state. You enter it by assuming the feeling of it. You enter it by letting the body and mind rest after the desire, not before it. You enter it by feeling what would be true if you had already lived beyond the arrival. You enter it by no longer using the future as a hiding place for unbelief. Tonight, you are not being asked to understand time like a scholar. You are being invited to slip free from its spell. You are lying in the quiet, and this quiet is a mercy. The body is becoming still. The senses are less. The world is no longer commanding you with the same force. Here, in the softness before sleep, you can begin to feel that tomorrow is not your savior. The fulfilled state is nearer than tomorrow. Tomorrow may be the field in which the state appears, but tomorrow is not the cause. The cause is what you accept tonight. This is why so much depends upon the inner position before sleep. If you sleep as one waiting for a future, you offer the subconscious the state of waiting. If you sleep as one who remembers the desire is already done, you offer the subconscious the state of completion. The deep does not require you to arrange time. It requires only that you accept being, and being is always present. Let us make this simple with love. Suppose you desire to be loved, to be chosen, to be secure in affection. The surface mind says, love will come later. Someone will change. Someone will arrive. Someone will speak. Something. But the deeper teaching says, enter being loved now, not by forcing another, not by arguing with appearances, but by occupying the state. Feel the after. Feel the ease of being already chosen. Feel the calm of one who no longer begs for affection. That state is not in tomorrow. It is available in consciousness now. Now let us see it with wealth. The surface mind says, money will come later, a door will open later, provision will arrive later. But if safety is always postponed until an outer symbol appears, then the state of insecurity remains present. The deeper teaching says, enter the state of being supplied now. Feel the burden as already lifted in consciousness. Feel the ordinary relief of one who has already passed beyond the fear. The visible means may appear in time, but the state is now. See it with health. The surface mind says, one day I will be healed, one day the body will change, but this may keep the old identity alive. The deeper teaching says, enter wholeness now. Do not fight the body. Do not make the condition the center. Remember the body at peace. Feel the after of healing. Let the inner man no longer live as one waiting for permission to be whole. Wholeness is a state, and the state is now. See it with success. The surface mind says, one day I will be recognized. One day my work will be accepted. But the fulfilled self does not wait for applause to become established. The deeper teaching says, enter establishment now. Feel the dignity of accomplishment. Remember the door is already opened. Think from the life where success has become ordinary. The event may unfold through time, but the state is entered now. See it with freedom. The surface mind says, one day I will be released, one day this burden will end, one day I will no longer feel trapped. But the state of being trapped, if accepted now, continues to bind the inner man. The deeper teaching says, enter freedom now. Feel the open space within. Remember the old chain as something behind you. Let your consciousness stand beyond the wall before the wall appears to move. This is not a denial of the visible world. It is a recognition of order. First the state, then the expression. First consciousness, then appearance. First I am. If you reverse the order, you become dependent upon effects. If you restore the order, you become a conscious creator. The future is not a place where your desire is waiting. It is a state you have not yet entered. So enter it gently. Do not force it. Do not make this a task. Do not lie here trying to break time with effort. Time is not broken by effort. Time collapses inwardly when the state changes from waiting to having. It collapses when you no longer feel before. It collapses when you rest in after. It collapses when the desire is not felt as a distant event, but as a remembered fact. There is a peculiar peace that comes when the future loses authority. Perhaps you can feel the beginning of it even now. The chest may soften, the mind may become less sharp, the body may stop leaning toward a day not yet arrived. You may feel that the desire is not as far as you made it. You may feel that the calendar has been given too much power. You may feel that the true movement is inward, from one state to another. That feeling is precious. Do not dismiss it, because the senses have not yet changed. The senses are late. The state is first. Do not say, nothing has happened, simply because the outer world still appears the same. If your state has shifted, something has happened in the only place where cause begins. The outer world may be the last to know, but it must eventually know. What men call the future is often only consciousness not yet accepted. Then accept consciousness differently tonight. Accept that your desire is not floating in a distant time. Accept that the fulfilled self is a state. Accept that you can lie here, in the same room, under the same night, and inwardly move from before to after. Accept that the imagination is not pretending when it enters the fulfilled state. It is touching the source. You do not travel through time to become fulfilled. You enter the fulfilled state now. You enter now by assuming. You enter now by remembering. You enter now by feeling after. You enter now by sleeping from the end. You enter now by letting the future become present state. Do not say, I must wait until tomorrow to be the one who has received. You can be that one in consciousness now. Do not say, I must wait until the world approves. You can assume now. Do not say, I must wait until fear is gone. Enter the state, and fear will lose its place. The common mind believes it must go somewhere. The awakened imagination knows it must be somewhere. To go is time, to be is consciousness, and being is always now. Let this distinction become soft, not heavy. You are not required to fight the calendar. You are not required to deny the usefulness of time in outer affairs. You simply withdraw. You no longer say time will make me fulfilled. You say fulfillment is a state I accept now, and time will serve its expression. The river of events may flow, but the source of the river is hidden. Tonight you return to the source. You do not chase the water downstream. You return to the spring. The spring is consciousness. The spring is I am. The spring is the state accepted before sleep, and from that spring events move. If the mind still says, but how can something not yet visible be real now? Be gentle with it. It is accustomed to the senses. It believes seeing is first. But in every true act of creation, seeing inwardly is first. The house is imagined before it is built. The journey is conceived before the foot moves. The word is formed within before the mouth speaks. The visible follows the invisible. Your desire too begins as state before it appears as fact. The future, then, is only the name the senses give to the invisible when they do not yet perceive it. But consciousness may perceive now what the senses will report later. This is why you may remember the future as though it were past, not because you are lying to yourself, but because in consciousness the fulfilled state exists now. You are learning to treat the state as real before the senses have caught up. Consciousness does not create from later. Consciousness creates from now. Let now become holy again. Not the now of appearances only, but the now of I am. The now in which you can choose. The now in which you can assume. The now in which you can stop waiting. The now in which you can remember. The now in which the fulfilled state is near. The now in which the future is revealed as a state, not a place. If the desire were truly far away, you would need time to reach it. But if the desire is a state, you need only. It may be a phrase, it may be a remembered scene, it may be the soft feeling of after, it may be the quiet knowledge, this has already happened in consciousness. The entrance need not be dramatic. A state can be entered gently. Tonight then, do not ask how many days stand between you and fulfillment. Ask only whether you are willing to stop placing fulfillment ahead of you. Ask whether you are willing to feel it as now. Ask whether you are willing to let the future become a remembered fact. Ask whether you are willing to sleep as the one who has already received. And if you are willing only a little, let that little be enough. A small entrance is still an entrance. A faint feeling of after is still a movement. A quiet release from waiting is still sacred. Do not despise the smallness of the shift. In consciousness, a slight change of state may become the beginning of a new world. The night is deepening now. The outer world is becoming less important. Let the word later lose its command. Let the old belief in distance become faint. Let the calendar fade from the throne. Let consciousness take its rightful place. The future is not a place where your desire is waiting. It is a state you have not yet entered. Consciousness does not create from later. Consciousness creates from now. You do not travel through time to become fulfilled. You enter the fulfilled state now. What men call the future is often only consciousness, not yet accept. Accept it now. Accept love now. Accept supply now. Accept wholeness now. Accept success now. Accept right work now. Accept freedom now. Accept peace now. Not as a future event, but as present state. Not as a distant place, but as consciousness now. Not as something coming, but as something remembered. And as you begin to enter, even softly, even faintly, the desire is no longer far away in the calendar. It is here as a remembered fact. It is here as the life you now begin to occupy within. Rest there. Rest not in later. Rest in now. Rest not in distance. Rest in state. Rest not in waiting. Rest in the fulfilled consciousness that is always nearer than time. Now, while the body becomes quieter and the night gathers around you, I want you to do something very simple, not difficult, not mystical in appearance, not strained. I want not some dramatic moment, not a scene charged with fear or longing. Remember something ordinary, something so simple that the mind does not resist it. Perhaps a conversation you had, perhaps a meal you ate, perhaps a room you entered, perhaps the feel of a chair beneath you, the sound of a voice, the movement of your hand, the quiet act of walking from one place to another. Perhaps you remember looking out of a window. Perhaps you remember closing a door. Perhaps you remember speaking a few words to another, something small, something plain, something that happened and passed. Now notice how that memory feels. Do not analyze the event itself. Do not make it important. Do not ask whether it was wonderful or ordinary. Simply notice the feeling of remembering. You do not strain to make yesterday real. You do not hold your breath and hope yesterday occurred. You do not ask the world to prove to you that you ate, spoke, walked, rested, or heard what you remember. You do not argue with the memory. You do not plead with it. You do not beg it to become true. You know. You do not hope yesterday happened. You know it did. There is a quiet authority in this, not loud authority, not the authority of excitement, not the authority of violent conviction, the authority of the ordinary, the authority of something that needs. When you remember yesterday, there is no need to manufacture belief. The memory has already crossed the threshold into fact within you. It is not waiting for permission, it belongs. This is the feeling I want you to understand tonight. This is the feeling that many overlook because it is not dramatic enough for the restless mind. Man often thinks power must feel like intensity. He thinks the fulfilled state must be a great emotional storm, a burst of excitement, a trembling certainty that shakes the body. Sometimes feeling may be vivid, yes, but the deepest creative feeling is often quieter than excitement. It is the feeling of something settled, something known, something no longer argued with. A memory does not ask you to believe it. It carries its own quiet fact. Let that sentence become part of you. A memory does. It carries its own quiet fact. If you remember a room you sat in yesterday, the room does not need to appear before your eyes now for you to know you were there. If you remember a word spoken to you, the speaker does not need to repeat it tonight. If you remember a meal, you do not need to taste it again to know it was eaten. The memory carries its own quiet fact. Now suppose you could bring that same quiet fact to your desire, not as a future hope, not as a thing you are trying to convince yourself will happen, not as a distant blessing toward which you are reaching, but as something remembered, something that has entered your inner history, something that belongs to the self who has already passed beyond the arrival. This is the doorway. That ordinary feeling of already happened is the door. The door is not strain. The door is not force. The door is not a great argument against the world. The door is the ordinary feeling of already happened. It is the feeling that the desire is no longer standing before you as a question, but resting behind you as a fact. It is the feeling that you are no longer walking toward it, but remembering it from the life after it became yours. Think again of yesterday. The memory may not be perfect. You may not recall every word of a conversation. You may not remember every color in the room. You may not see every detail of the table, the street, the face, the garment, the light. Yet you still know it happened. The certainty of the memory does not depend upon perfect detail. This is important. Many imagine that before sleep they must see everything clearly, hold every line sharply, feel every sensation completely, or they have failed. But memory is not always sharp. It is often soft and yet certain. You may remember a conversation from yesterday and only hear a. You may remember a meal and only sense the feeling of sitting there. You may remember walking and only feel the general movement of the body. But the memory remains yours. Its power is not in the sharpness of every detail. Its power is in the accepted fact that it happened. So tonight, when you bring your desire into this same quality, do not be troubled if the scene is simple. Do not be troubled if it is gentle. Do not be troubled if it is not dramatic. You are not painting a great picture for display. You are entering the inward tone of already happened. The power is not in excitement, but in settled knowing. The power is not in excitement, but in settled knowing. Excitement may come, and if it comes naturally, let it be. But excitement often belongs to the moment of receiving, to the first surprise, to the instant when the outer world seems to change. Tonight we are going deeper than that. We are moving past the first surprise into the quiet after. We are seeking not the thrill of something arriving, but the stillness of something already incorporated into your life. If you desire wealth, the old way may be to lie in bed and imagine the money coming, the relief coming, the proof coming, and as you imagine, you may feel excitement, but beneath it there may remain a reaching. It is still coming, it is still ahead, it is still something that must cross a distance to reach you. But the feeling of yesterday is different. Wealth remembered does not say, it is coming. It says, I remember when that burden lifted. I remember when it was resolved. I remember the quiet after. I remember the first night I slept without that old pressure. I remember how ordinary it became to feel provided for. This memory does not beg, it knows. If you desire love, the old way may be to imagine someone coming toward you, choosing you, returning, speaking, embracing, proving, and perhaps the image stirs the heart. But if you are still looking forward, you may also feel the ache of absence. You may still feel yourself as the one waiting for love, but the feeling of yesterday says something else. It says, I remember when love became peaceful. I remember when I stopped wondering. I remember the ease of being chosen. I remember how natural it became to be held in affection. I remember when the question ended. That memory does not plead with love. It belongs to love. If you desire health, the old way may be to imagine the body changing, improving, recovering, beginning to obey a new command. But if you are still observing the body from fear, the desire remains in the future. The feeling of yesterday moves differently. It says, I remember when I realized I was at peace again. I remember when the body stopped being the center of fear. I remember the first ordinary day when I was not listening anxiously. I remember how wholeness became simple again. That memory does not fight the body, it knows wholeness. If you desire success, the old way may be to imagine the door opening, the applause, the recognition, the moment when others finally see. But if this is felt as something you still need in order to be established, then success remains ahead. The feeling of yesterday says, I remember when the door opened. I remember when the work was accepted. I remember when what I once longed for became my ordinary life. I remember the quiet dignity that followed. It happened, it became mine. It is part of me now. That memory does not chase recognition, it stands after it. If you desire freedom, the old way may be to imagine escape from the burden, the chain, the limitation, the old condition. But if you remain focused on what binds you, freedom may still be felt as distant. The feeling of yesterday says, I remember when I knew I was free. I remember when the old weight no longer held my inner life. I remember when I began to breathe differently. I remember the strange simplicity of realizing the prison was behind me. That memory, it remembers release. And if you desire peace, the old way may be to say, one day I will rest. One day I will stop worrying. One day life will become quiet enough for me to sleep. But peace postponed is anxiety continued. The feeling of yesterday says, I remember when peace returned. I remember the night I stopped arguing with life. I remember when my mind grew quiet. I remember when rest became possible again. That memory does not beg for, it is subtle, but it is everything. One feeling looks forward, the other looks back from possession. One says perhaps, the other says it happened. One asks for proof, the other carries fact. One is still negotiating with time. The other has already passed through time inwardly. One is desire as hunger. The other is desire as memory. And yet this memory need not be based upon something the senses have already recorded. This is the creative secret. Imagination can take the fulfilled state and give it the tone of memory. And when it does so, the subconscious receives not a distant wish, but an inner fact. It receives the state as something already settled. It receives the desire as something already belonging. It receives the feeling of after. Let me speak carefully here. I am not asking you to lie to yourself in the crude sense. I am asking you to understand that consciousness is deeper than the reports of the senses. The visible world is one level of experience. Imagination is the creative level. In imagination, you may enter a state before the outer world has recorded it. And when you enter it so completely that it feels like remembered reality, you are no longer hoping from outside. You are assuming from within. The memory of yesterday teaches you how. It shows you the tone. It shows you the absence of strain. It shows you how a fact feels when it is no longer being questioned. You do not need to shout at yesterday. You do not need to convince yesterday. You do not need to repeat yesterday 100 times with fear that it may vanish. You simply know. Bring that knowing to the desire, not a loud knowing, a settled knowing, not a forced knowing, a familiar knowing, not a tense knowing, an ordinary knowing. The ordinary is powerful because the subconscious accepts what feels natural. A desire that feels extraordinary may still feel outside. A desire that feels too high, too distant, too astonishing may keep the self in separation. But when the fulfilled life becomes ordinary, when it has the tone of yesterday, when it feels like something already lived, then it begins to belong to your identity. Man is not transformed merely by looking at what he wants. He is transformed by becoming the one for whom it is normal, the one for whom love is normal, the one for whom supply is normal, the one for whom health is normal, the one for whom success is normal, the one for whom freedom is normal, the one for whom peace is normal. This is why the feeling of yesterday is so useful. Yesterday, whether pleasant or plain, feels normal. It happened. It passed into the fabric of your life. It does not stand outside asking to be admitted. Let your desire become like that. Let it stop standing outside. Let it stop being a future miracle. Let it become a remembered fact in the consciousness of the fulfilled self. Perhaps now you may remember something from yesterday again. See how little effort is required. You may say, I remember sitting there. I remember hearing that voice. I remember eating. I remember walking. I remember lying down. I remember that room. And none of these memories need to be forced. They are yours. They rise because they belong to your experience. Now gently change the direction. Let your desire be approached in the same tone. I remember when the answer came. I remember when it became mine. I remember when the burden lifted. I remember when love felt certain. I remember when provision arrived. I remember when my body was at peace. I remember when the door opened. I remember when I realized I was free. Do not say these as affirmations shouted into emptiness. Say them inwardly as memories. Let each one have the same calm simplicity as remembering a conversation from yesterday. Not I hope, not I wish. The feeling of I remember is different. It places you beyond the event. It gives the desire an inner past. It removes the pressure of arrival. It says, this has already entered my world. This is already part of my story. This is not a foreign thing I am begging life to grant. This belongs to the self I am now assuming. That ordinary feeling of already happened is the door, and the door can be entered softly. You do not have to break it open. You do not have to push the mind. Simply let the tone of memory replace the tone of hope. If hope appears, bless it, but go deeper. Hope says, it may happen. Memory says, it did. Hope leans forward. Memory rests back. Hope looks through the window. Memory sits inside the house. Tonight you are learning to sit inside. Inside supply, inside love, inside health, inside success, inside work fulfilled, inside free, as one remembering from within. Think of the body when it remembers yesterday. It does not usually tighten. It does not become desperate. It does not grip the memory. It allows it. And when you bring the fulfilled desire into memory, the body should begin to learn that same ease. The breath may soften, the chest may release, the shoulders may drop, the mind may become less eager to ask when. The whole inner man may begin to feel, this is not far, this is known. If that feeling comes only faintly, receive it. Do not demand more. A faint memory is still memory. A soft knowing is still knowing. A simple scene is still a door. The mind trained in anxiety may want something larger, but the deep mind is often impressed by what feels natural, not by what feels extravagant. The power is not in excitement, but in settled knowing. Excitement may rise and fall. A man can become excited and still feel separate from what it is not disturbed so easily. It does not need to be constantly fed. It has the tone of possession. It can sleep, and what can sleep in consciousness can descend into the subconscious. This is why before sleep, I do not ask you to become wildly emotional. I ask you to become inwardly settled. Let the desire feel as though it has already happened in consciousness. Let it carry the weight of yesterday. Let it become part of the inner record. Let it be something you recall, not something you chase. A memory does not ask you to believe it. It carries its own quiet fact. So let your imaginal memory carry its own quiet fact. Do not decorate it too much. Do not make it so dramatic that the mind doubts it. Do not make it a long story filled with process. A memory from yesterday may come in a fragment, and still it is real to you. In the same way, your fulfilled memory may be a fragment, a voice, your own breath after relief, the feel of a key in the hand, a word of love, a letter read quietly, a room that is yours, a morning after healing, a simple thought. I remember when it changed. Let that be enough. The simpler it is, the easier it may become natural. And naturalness is the great secret. The desire does not need to remain bright and distant. It must become natural and possessed. When it becomes natural inwardly, the world begins to adjust outwardly, for the world reflects what consciousness has accepted as normal. You do not hope yesterday happened. You know it did. Know your desire in the same quiet way. At first, perhaps only for a moment. Then again, then again. Let the moments gather. Let the new memory become familiar. Let the fulfilled state acquire the softness of repetition. Do not force it into certainty. Let certainty grow from return. Memory is strengthened by recollection. Return to the fulfilled memory gently, and it will cease to feel strange. You may say inwardly, I remember. Then pause. Let the body listen. I remember when it was done. Pause again. Let the heart receive. I remember when it became mine. Pause. Let the future loosen. I remember the relief. Pause. Let the old waiting fall away. I remember the after. Pause. Let the fulfilled state draw. Hurrying belongs to the one who fears time. Memory is not in a hurry. It is already behind you. What is behind you does not need to be rushed. It simply is. And as you enter this tone, time begins to soften. The desire no longer stands ahead as a demand. It rests behind as a remembered fact. That is the beginning of collapse. Not collapse through violence, but through knowing. If you have imagined with anxiety before, do not regret it. You were reaching for truth in the but tonight you are being given a more restful way. You are not being asked to abandon desire. You are being asked to change its tense. Not will be, has been, not coming, came, not one day. I remember, not future, fulfilled fact. And because this is a sleep video, let even these distinctions become soft. You do not have to grasp them with the intellect. Let them move into feeling. Let the feeling of yesterday teach you. Yesterday did not need your argument. It happened. It is known. It is quiet. Now let the desire become quiet in that same way. Let wealth become quiet. Let love become quiet. Let health become quiet. Let success become quiet. Let freedom become quiet. Let peace become quiet. Let the answer become quiet. Quiet does not mean weak. Quiet may be the strongest thing in consciousness. The seed is quiet. The roots are quiet. And your remembered desire, if truly accepted, may be quiet too. The world loves noise, but the subconscious receives feeling. The feeling tonight is not desperation. The feeling tonight is not future. The feeling tonight is not a cry toward tomorrow. The feeling tonight is the inward knowing of already happened. Let the scene, whatever it is, become like yesterday. A simple conversation, a simple meal, a simple room, a simple walk, something done, something that does not need to defend itself. That is the tone. That is the doorway. That is the psychological secret. You may now let these words become fewer within you. I remember. I remember when it happened. I remember when the answer came. I remember when it became mine. I remember the relief. I remember the ordinary after. I remember. Do not force the memory. Let it rise. Do not chase the feeling. Let it settle. Do not demand excitement. Let knowing. The power is not in excitement, but in settled knowing. And now, as the night continues, begin to feel the difference between anxious imagining and natural remembering. Anxious imagining leans forward. Natural remembering rests. Anxious imagining asks for proof. Natural remembering carries fact. Anxious imagining fears delay. Natural remembering stands after the event. Anxious imagining says, please let it happen. Natural remembering. Let remembering take you. Let settled knowing take you. Let the feeling of yesterday become the feeling of your fulfilled desire. Let the desire become simple. Let it become known. Let it become inwardly ordinary. Let it become already happened. And if sleep comes, let sleep receive that quiet fact. Now we come to the turn itself, the inward reversal that makes the old sense of time lose its authority. Up to this point, perhaps you have imagined as most men. You have placed the desire before you. You have looked toward it. You have thought of it as coming nearer. You have hoped the distance would grow smaller. You have watched the road. You have wondered when the road would end. And because you were looking forward, you may not have noticed that you were still standing before the thing desired. But tonight, I ask you to turn around in consciousness. Do not look forward toward the desire. Stand after it. Do not look at it as though it were approaching. Look back upon it as though it has already entered your life, done its work, changed what it came to change, and become ordinary. This is not a mechanical exercise. It is a holy movement of identity. You are moving from the one who waits to the one who remembers. You are moving from before to after. You are moving from the road to the arrival. You are moving from distance to possession. You do not bring the future here by chasing it. You bring it here by remembering it, as done. Let that be received quietly. You do not bring the future here by chasing it. You bring it here by remembering it, as done. Chasing belongs to the man who believes the desired reality is outside him. Chasing belongs to the man who believes that time must carry him to fulfillment. Chasing belongs to the one who has accepted absence as the present fact and placed his good in some distant hour. But remembering belongs to the one who has already entered the end. Remembering is the attitude of possession. Remembering is consciousness speaking from the fulfilled state. This is the method, not to stretch yourself toward tomorrow, but to assume that tomorrow has already yielded its fruit. Not to imagine yourself moving toward the event, but to stand inwardly, beyond the event, and look back. Not to ask, how shall it happen, but to feel it did happen. Not to say, I hope the road opens, but to say, I remember when it opened. This is the collapse of psychological time. Now you may ask, what do I mean by time collapsing? I do not mean that you must perform some strange act in the outer world. I do not mean that the clock must break or the sun must hurry. I mean that the inward distance between yourself and the desire falls away. I mean that the mind no longer lives before the event. I mean that consciousness no longer says, I am here and my desire is there. It says, I am after it now. I am in the state where it has already become part of me. Look back from the end and the distance begins to collapse. Look back from the end and the distance begins to collapse. For the distance was not only in time, it was in state. It was in your inner relationship to the desire. As long as you faced it as something ahead, you felt separate from it. But when you stand beyond it and look back, the desire is no longer separate. It has already been included in your life. It has already happened in consciousness. It has become part of your assumed history. This is why the method must be entered gently and reverently. You are not daydreaming from hunger. You are remembering from fulfillment. You are not trying to convince yourself with loud emotion. You are taking the position of the one who has no need to convince himself. The one who remembers is already beyond the waiting. The one who remembers is already beyond the waiting. This is the whole change. The one who waits says, will it come? The one who remembers says, it came. The one who waits says, how long? The one who remembers says, that is behind me. The one who waits says, what must happen first? The one who remembers says, somehow it was arranged. The one who waits says, I need proof. The one who remembers says, the one who waits stands before time. The one who remembers stands after time. And from this state of after, the body itself begins to change. It no longer leans toward the future with hunger. The breath becomes less anxious. The heart becomes less urgent. The mind no longer grasps so desperately at signs. The desire is not being watched like a ship far out at sea. It has already come into harbor. You are sitting on the shore after the arrival, remembering the day. This is not the same as imagining the moment of receiving. There is a difference, and it is important. Many imagine the first moment when the desire arrives, the first word, the first embrace, the first sum, the first door, the first sign, the first proof. There is power in such scenes when they imply the end. But tonight, for this method, we go deeper than the first moment. We go beyond the arrival. The moment of receiving may still have movement in it. It may still contain surprise, excitement, relief, and the sense that something has just changed. But the ordinary after is quieter. The ordinary after means it has had time to settle. It is no longer a shocking interruption of your old life. It has become your life. It has been yours long enough to feel natural. It has lost the strange quality of a miracle and gained the quiet quality of belonging. Enter that. Do not stop at the first proof. Go beyond arrival. Do not stop at the first excitement. Go beyond excitement. Enter the place where the fulfilled reality has become ordinary. For what is ordinary to you is accepted by you. What is ordinary to you feels natural. What feels natural to consciousness seeks expression without strain. If your desire is wealth, do not merely imagine receiving money. Go beyond that. Go to the life where provision has already become natural. It has been settled. It has been lifted long enough that your body no longer remembers itself as poor. You are not trembling at the arrival. You are resting in the ordinary fact that you are supplied. From there, look back. Remember the day the burden ended. Remember how strange it seemed for a little while, and then how natural it became. Remember the relief as something already lived. If your desire is love, do not merely imagine the first meeting, the first return, the first word, the first embrace. Go beyond that. Enter the life where love is already familiar. You are not asking whether you are chosen. You are not waiting to be answered. You are not reading every silence with fear. Love is part of your world now. It has become woven into the ordinary rhythm of your life. From there, look back. Remember when it changed. Remember when the heart stopped begging. Remember when the relationship became peaceful. Remember when being loved became natural. If your desire is health, do not merely imagine the first sign of improvement. Go beyond that. Enter the body after wholeness has become ordinary. The old fear is not the center, the body is simply your body again. You move through the day without making the condition your identity. You rest at night without watching yourself in anxiety. From there, look back. Remember when peace returned. Remember when the body stopped being a question. Remember when you realized the old story had lost its hold. If your desire is success, do not merely imagine the first moment of applause, acceptance, promotion, victory, or recognition. Go beyond that. Enter the life where success has become your natural station. The door opened, yes, but now you live beyond the door. The work is yours. The position is yours. The dignity is yours. The achievement no longer feels foreign. From there, look back. Remember when you first understood. This is my life now. Remember the calm that followed the first joy. If your desire is right work, calling, or position, do not merely imagine being chosen. Go beyond being chosen. Enter the days after you have already begun. The place is familiar. The work has a rhythm. You know where you belong. You are not wondering if someone will accept you. You are living from the acceptance. From there, look back. Remember when the opportunity, remember how naturally it unfolded. Remember the first day and then the ordinary days after, when it simply became what you did. If your desire is freedom, do not merely imagine the breaking of the chain. Go beyond the breaking. Enter the life where the chain is no longer central. You do not wake each morning asking whether you are still bound. You are free. Freedom has become the air you breathe. From there, look back. Remember when you realized it was over. Remember when the old burden fell away. Remember when the world began to feel open again. And if your desire is peace, do not merely imagine the first moment of calm. Go beyond it. Enter the life where peace is no longer a visitor, but a dwelling. The mind no longer belongs to turmoil. The body no longer keeps guard over old fear. Silence no longer frightens you. From there, look back. Remember when the storm passed. Remember when the heart became quiet. Remember when you knew that rest had returned. This is the movement, beyond the event, into the ordinary after, then back from the ordinary after to the day it became done. Do you feel the mystery? You are not trying to cross time in the usual way. You are assuming the consciousness of one who has already crossed it. You are not traveling toward fulfillment. You are borrowing the eyes of the fulfilled self. You are looking back through those eyes. And because consciousness creates from the state it occupies, this inward movement is not empty. It is creative. Time bends before the state that knows it has already received. Time bends before the state that knows it has already received. Not because time is forced by human will, but because time is subordinate to state. The sequence of events is not the cause of consciousness, it is the expression of consciousness. When consciousness stands in waiting, time appears long. When consciousness stands in possession, time begins to serve possession. The outer world rearranges through ways the little mind could not have designed. But first, the state must know. This knowing is not noisy, it is not a mental strain, it does not have to shout at appearances, it does not need to fight the clock. It is the quiet knowing of one looking back. If you can remember a thing as done, you no longer stand before it as an anxious petitioner. You have crossed an inward threshold. Let us make this softer now. Imagine gently that you move beyond this present night, not by effort, not by counting days, simply inwardly. You step beyond the arrival of your desire. You step beyond the first proof. You step beyond the first astonishment. You step beyond the moment when you said, "It is happening." You go further. You enter the time when it has already happened, and you have lived with it long enough for it to feel like your own. You are there, not trying to get there, there. The desire has already become part of your life. It has already been received. It has already softened into the ordinary. You no longer speak of it as something coming. You speak of it as something that happened. You no longer wonder whether it belongs to you. It has become woven into your inner sense of self. Now from there, turn and look back. Do not look back at struggle unless the struggle is already over. Do not look back at uncertainty unless uncertainty has already passed. Do not look back to rehearse fear. Look back as one whose answer has come. Look back upon the day the door opened. Look back upon the word spoken. Look back upon the letter received. Look back upon the burden lifted. Look back upon the first quiet morning after everything changed. Say inwardly, not as a formula, but as memory, I remember when it happened. I remember when it became mine. I remember when the answer came. I remember when I knew it was done. Let those sentences have the tone of recollection. Do not say them like a man trying to create an event. Say them like a man sitting after the harvest, recalling the first sign of spring. Say them with the softness of one who no longer needs to persuade himself. Let them be ordinary. Let them be quiet. Let them be already lived. The anxious mind may ask, but what exactly happened? Do not follow it. The method is not to explain the road. The method is to stand after the road. The details may come naturally, or they may not. What matters first is the position. You are after. You are remembering. You are no longer waiting for time to bring you permission. You are letting consciousness assume the fulfilled fact. If a detail comes, let it come. Perhaps you remember receiving a word. Perhaps you remember making a call. Perhaps you remember holding something. Perhaps you remember waking one morning and realizing the old fear was gone. Perhaps you remember walking through a door. Perhaps you remember sitting quietly with tears of relief. Let the detail serve the state. But do not worship the detail. The state is the power. This is why I say it must sound mystical, not mechanical. You are not operating a machine. You are entering a mystery. You are touching the eternal present by assuming a completed state. You are standing in imagination where the senses have not yet arrived. You are moving beyond the slow testimony of the world and claiming the fact in consciousness. It is a sacred act, not a clever trick. The world will tell you that you must wait until events change, and then you may remember. I tell you, remember first, and events will be compelled to follow their course. The world says, time produces the fact. I tell you, state produces the fact, and time reveals it. The world says, look ahead and hope. I tell you, look back from the end, and know. Look back from the end, and the distance begins to collapse. Distance is maintained by your inward position. The desire feels far when you stand before it. It feels near when you stand within it. It feels complete when you stand after it. The collapse of time is not a violent breaking. It is a gentle change of relationship. You no longer face the desire as something to get. You carry it as something already received. You no longer project it into a far tomorrow. You incorporate it into the memory of the fulfilled self. This is why, when the method is understood, desperation begins to fade. Desperation belongs to one who has not crossed. Desperation says, what if it does not happen? But from after, the question loses its force. What if it does not happen? But I remember when it did. When will it come? But I am beyond the... But from here, arrival is already history. This is not arrogance, it is assumption. Assumption is not loud, it is not pride, it is not human boasting. It is the quiet acceptance of the state. I assume that I am after the event. I assume that I have received. I assume that the desire is already included in my life. I assume that I remember the day it happened. I assume not as a beggar, but as consciousness selecting its dwelling. Now, before the event, the body often leans forward. It waits, it tightens, it watches, it prepares, it asks. After the event, the body can rest. It is no longer leaning toward the road. It is seated in the arrival. The breath changes. The shoulders change. The heart changes. The mind stops searching every corridor of possibility. It has a fact to rest upon, even if that fact is first accepted in imagination. Feel the after. How does the body rest after provision has arrived? How does the body soften after healing has become normal? How does the body sit after success has become yours? How does the body lie down after freedom has been lived? How does the body sleep after peace has returned? Do not answer with words. Answer with the state. Let the body move from before to after. Let it stop bracing as though everything is still unresolved. Let it taste the quiet of completion. This bodily shift is part of the collapse. Time is not only in the clock, it is in the nervous posture of waiting. When the body stops waiting, the future loses a throne within you. You do not bring the future here by chasing it. You bring it here by remembering it as done. So tonight, if your desire enters your mind, do not let the old habit immediately send it forward. Do not say, when will it come? Do not say, perhaps tomorrow. Do not say, I hope soon. See it behind you. Feel it behind you. Let it become something you have already lived through. Let the fulfilled life become your point of view. If the desire is a home, do not stand outside imagining whether you will one day enter. Sit in the home months after you have entered and remember the day the keys became yours. If the desire is love, do not stand outside the heart of another, wondering if you will one day be chosen. Live in the affection already settled, and remember when certainty came. If the desire is wealth, do not watch the road for provision. Rest in the life after provision, and remember when the burden ended. If the desire is success, do not stare at the gate. Stand within the life beyond the gate, and remember when it opened. The one who remembers is already beyond the waiting. This phrase may become a lullaby to the inner man. The one who remembers is already beyond the waiting. You are not waiting tonight, you are remembering. You are not measuring distance tonight, you are standing after. You are not reaching toward the future tonight, you are resting in the fulfilled fact. Let the repetition soften you, let it take you out of effort. The one who remembers is already beyond the waiting. I remember. I remember when it happened. I remember when it became mine. I remember when the waiting ended. I remember when the road was behind me. I remember when the answer. Let this not become forced. If the mind strains, soften it. If the image becomes too sharp and tense, let it blur into feeling. If you cannot see the scene, feel the after. If you cannot find the exact memory, feel the truth of having one. The method is not a demand. It is an invitation to dwell after the fulfillment. There is a vast difference between imagining to get and imagining from having. Imagining to get often contains pressure. Imagining to get says, I am using this to make it come. Imagining from having says, I remember because it is done. Imagining to get may still worship time. Imagining from having quietly removes time from the throne. Time bends before the state that knows it has already received. And this state may be calm. Do not distrust calmness. Do not think that because you are not excited, nothing is happening. The deepest acceptance often feels almost ordinary. The fulfilled self is not constantly astonished by his own life. He lives it. He may be grateful, yes. He may be moved, yes. But he is not continually shocked by what belongs to him. That is why you are asked to go beyond the arrival, into the ordinary after. It trains consciousness to feel the desire as belonging. Belonging is more powerful than wanting. The thing you want may feel distant. The thing that belongs to you feels near, even when not physically touched. You know your name belongs to you without holding it in your hand. You know your memories belong to you without seeing them before your eyes. You know yesterday happened without proving it at every hour. Let the fulfilled reality begin to belong in this way. Let it become inwardly possessed. Now feel the mystical simplicity of the method once more. Move beyond the arrival. Stand in the ordinary after. Look back. Remember the day it became done. Feel the relief as history. Feel the desire as belonging. Sleep from there. This is enough. You do not need to build the bridge. You do not need to command people. You do not need to arrange the world. You do not need to master every detail of time. Time is not mastered by force. Time is transcended by state. When you stand after the fulfillment, time no longer stretches between you and the desire in the same way. The inner distance collapses, and the outer world begins its obedience to the accepted fact. Let the old habit of looking forward become faint now. Let the eyes of imagination turn around. Let the desire move from ahead to behind. Let it become something remembered. Let it become something settled. Let it become something already included in your life. Let it become part of the story the fulfilled self tells inwardly. I remember when it came. I remember when it opened. I remember when it healed. I remember when it resolved. I remember when I was chosen. I remember when I was free. I remember when peace returned. Not I hope. I remember, not it will. It did. Not one day. That day came. Not I am waiting. I have received. Let these words become slow. Let them become low within you. Let them sink beneath the surface mind. You need not hold them sharply. You need not stay awake to guard them. If sleep approaches, let sleep approach from after. Let sleep come to you. Do not bring the future here by chasing it. You bring it here by remembering it as done. Look back from the end, and the distance begins to collapse. The one who remembers is already beyond the waiting. Time bends before the state that knows it has already received. And tonight, you may become that state, not by effort, not by strain, not by a battle with the world, by entering the after, by looking back, by remembering, by resting in the quiet fact of what is already fulfilled in consciousness. So move now, gently, beyond the road, beyond the question, beyond the first arrival, beyond the first proof, into the ordinary after. Look back, remember, and let the future fall into the past of your fulfilled self. Now, as you move inwardly, beyond the old habit of looking toward the desire, I want you to understand another gentle secret. Many they imagine the first proof, the first word, the first embrace, the first sum, the first open door, the first sign that the world has changed. And because that moment is bright, because it carries excitement, because it appears to be the instant of victory, they think it must be the highest imaginable point. But I tell you, there is a state beyond arrival. Do not stop at the arrival. Go beyond it. The moment of arrival may still contain movement. It may still contain the trembling of becoming. It may still say, it is happening now. And although this can lift the heart, it may also preserve a subtle distance. The arrival is a threshold. It is the door opening. But I do not want you to stand forever at the door. I want you to live inside the house. The moment of receiving may still contain becoming. The ordinary after contains being. Let this become clear. The moment of receiving may still contain. The ordinary after contains being. When you imagine the first second of receiving your desire, the inner man may still feel the contrast between before and after. He may still feel astonished that it has come. He may still feel the shock of transition. But when you move deeper into the ordinary after, the desire is no longer arriving. It has arrived. It is no longer surprising you. It has been incorporated into your life. It is not an event you are watching. It is part of the self you are being. This is where the subconscious is often most easily impressed. Not always by the great peak of emotion, but by the quiet naturalness of possession. For what feels natural is what the subconscious accepts as belonging to you. A thing that feels too far, too miraculous, too impossible, too sudden, may still be experienced as outside. But a thing that feels normal, familiar, and already woven into your day becomes. When your desire feels normal, the subconscious accepts it more easily. When your desire feels normal, the subconscious accepts it more easily. This is why I ask you to move beyond the first thrill. Do not merely imagine the first moment when the money comes. Imagine the life where money has been there long enough that the body no longer lives in fear. Do not merely imagine the first moment love speaks. Imagine the relationship after love has settled into trust. Do not merely imagine the first sign of healing. Imagine the body after wholeness has become natural again. Do not merely imagine the first sign of success. Imagine success after it is no longer shocking, after it is simply your world. Enter the life where it has been yours long enough to feel natural. This is a beautiful command, and it is also a merciful one. Enter the life where it has been yours long enough to feel natural, not where you are still gasping, not where you are still saying, I cannot believe it, not where you are still measuring whether it is true. Go further. Enter the place where it has become ordinary in the holiest sense. Ordinary, not because it is small, but because it belongs. Ordinary, because it is yours. Ordinary because your consciousness no longer treats it as a visitor. It has become part of the furniture of your being. Suppose your desire is wealth. If you imagine only the first instant of receiving it, you may still feel the movement from lack into relief. You may still feel the old state nearby, as though the money has just interrupted fear. You may still ask, will it remain? Is it enough? What if it disappears? But go beyond that. Go weeks beyond. Go months beyond. Enter the life where supply is no longer a dramatic rescue. It is the atmosphere you live in. There, in the ordinary after, you no longer wake with the same pressure in your chest. You no longer count the future like an enemy. You no longer feel that every decision is haunted by lack. You move through the day with a quiet sense that there is enough. You do not worship the sum. You do not cling to the proof. The money, the provision, the support, the answer has become part of the normal order of your life. You remember the day it came, yes, but you do not live trembling at it. You live after it. This is wealth made natural, and the subconscious can receive that naturalness. It can receive the feeling, this is simply how my life is now. It can receive the body that no longer braces against tomorrow. It can receive the breath of one who is supplied. It can receive the quiet inner fact. The burden has already been lifted, and life has continued from there. Suppose your desire is love. If you imagine only the first meeting, the first embrace, the first return, the first word, you may still be living near the ache of absence. The first moment of love may be filled with joy, but it may also remind the old heart how long it waited. It may still feel like something newly gained, something delicate, something that must be protected from vanishing. Go beyond that. Enter the life where love has had time to become familiar. The relationship is not a question. The affection is not a surprise. The presence of this love is not something you hold with fear. It is part of your life. There are ordinary mornings, ordinary evenings, ordinary words, ordinary gestures, and yet beneath them there is the extraordinary peace of belonging. You do not need to ask every hour if you are chosen. You know, you do not examine every silence as though it were a threat. You rest. Love has become a room you live in, not a door you... From that place, you may look back and remember the beginning. You may remember when the heart settled. You may remember when the word was spoken. You may remember when loneliness lost its throne. But you are not living in the first shock of it. You are living in the after, the ordinary after, the state where being loved has become part of who you are. Suppose your desire is health. If you imagine only the first improvement, the first report, the first sign that the body is changing, you may still be watching the body as an object. You may still be in the state of recovery beginning. You may still be waiting for confirmation. But go beyond that. Enter the life where health has become your natural condition again. The body is no longer a subject of constant inward discussion. The body is simply the body. You move, rest, breathe, sleep and wake without making the old condition your identity. There may be a quiet gratitude, but not the anxious gratitude of one fearing loss. It is the gratitude of peace. You remember when things changed. You remember when the fear began to leave. You remember when the body stopped being a battlefield. But now, in the ordinary after, wholeness is not a miracle you are staring at. It is the atmosphere of your day. This is the subconscious receives this deeply because it is not being commanded from fear. It is being invited into normal wholeness. It is not hearing, I must be healed. It is receiving, I am living after healing has become natural. The body no longer feels before. The body feels after. Suppose your desire is success. If you imagine only the first applause, the first acceptance, the first proof that your work has been seen, you may still be close to the old hunger. The first moment may be satisfying, but it may still carry the contrast of the old self who wondered whether he was enough. Go beyond that. Enter the life where success is no longer shocking. The door has opened, and you have lived beyond the door. The work has become your work. The position has become your place. The recognition has settled into identity. You are not begging the world to see you. You are not holding your breath for approval. You are not trying to become worthy. You are living from the state where it is already established. Your actions are calmer. Your speech is clearer. Your decisions come from a different center. The old uncertainty may be remembered, but it is not your dwelling. You have moved into the ordinary after. This is success made natural. And when success becomes natural in consciousness, the subconscious no longer receives the desperate command, please let me succeed. It receives the settled fact, this is my life now. This is where I stand. This belongs to me. Suppose your desire is right work, a place, a calling, a role, an opportunity. If you imagine only being chosen, you may still carry the anxiety of one waiting to be selected. You may still feel that your life depends upon an outside decision. Go beyond the moment of being chosen. Enter the days after. You are already there. You know the rhythm. You know where you belong. The work has a natural... The room is familiar. The task is familiar. The dignity of belonging has settled. You are not outside asking to be admitted. You are inside, living. You may remember when the door opened, but the door is no longer the center. The life beyond the door is the center. This is the ordinary after of right work. This is the state the subconscious can accept. I belong here. This is mine. This is my place. Suppose your desire is freedom. If you imagine only the instant the chain breaks, you may still feel the chain. You may still be defining yourself by what you escaped. The breaking of bondage is not the deepest state. Go beyond it. Enter the life where the chain is not central anymore. You no longer wake thinking of it first. You no longer measure each day by its presence or absence. Freedom has become your air. You breathe without asking permission. You move without inward apology. You rest without expecting the old burden to return. This is freedom made natural. You may remember when you realized you were free. You may remember the day the burden lost its power, but in the ordinary after, you are not constantly celebrating release. You are living release. Freedom has stopped being a moment and become a state, and the subconscious receives the state. Do you see the pattern? Do not remain at the gate of arrival. Go beyond it. The gate is useful only because it opens into the dwelling. The first moment is useful only because it implies the life after. But the life after is what you are truly seeking. Not merely the event, but the state. Not merely receiving, but being. Not merely the first proof, but the naturalness that follows. The moment of receiving may still contain becoming. The ordinary after contains being. Receiving says, this is happening to me. Receiving says, the desire is arriving. Being says, the desire belongs. Receiving may still tremble. Being rests. Receiving may still be new. Being is familiar. Receiving may still ask whether the change is safe. Being no longer questions its own place. And because this is a video for sleep, I want you to move toward being, not toward excitement. Excitement may keep the mind awake. Rest carries the assumption into the excitement may make the desire feel exceptional. Normality makes it feel possessed. The night is not asking you to become excited. The night is asking you to become the one who has already lived after the answer. Let the desire become normal. This does not make it less wonderful. It makes it yours. There is a strange reverence in normality. The sun rises, and men seldom tremble at it. Yet it is a miracle. A familiar room shelters you, and you may not weep over it every hour. Yet shelter is a blessing. A hand held long enough becomes natural, yet love remains holy. A body at peace may seem ordinary, yet health is grace. What becomes natural is not stripped of value. It is accepted into life. That is what you seek. Not a miracle that visits, but a state that stays. Enter the life where it has been yours long enough to feel natural. Let us make this move. Imagine softly that your desire is not happening tonight. It is not about to happen. It is not on the verge. It is not knocking at the door. It has already entered, and you have lived with it. Let there be time behind you in imagination. Let the fulfilled reality have roots. Let it feel as though days have passed, weeks perhaps, months perhaps. Let it have become part of the way you know yourself. If it is wealth, feel the ordinary calm of being supplied, not the first shock of receiving, but the settled ease of living after provision. If it is love, feel the ordinary warmth of belonging, not the first thrill, but the quiet trust after love is established. If it is health, feel the ordinary peace of a body no longer feared, not the first sign, but the naturalness of wholeness. If it is success, feel the ordinary dignity of accomplishment, not the first applause, but the life where success has become your place. If it is freedom, feel the ordinary open air of release, not the first breaking, but the life where freedom is natural. Now rest there. Do not ask the imagination to keep showing you fireworks. Ask it to show you truth. A truth quietly accepted. A truth ordinary enough to sleep from. A truth familiar enough to belong. The fulfilled reality does not need to remain dramatic in order to be powerful. The more natural it becomes, the deeper it enters. When your desire feels normal, the subconscious accepts it more easily. The subconscious is not impressed by spectacle alone. It is impressed by acceptance. A spectacle may still be outside you. Acceptance is within you. A grand image may still feel like a fantasy. A simple ordinary feeling may feel like fact. The subconscious receives fact. It receives the state you have ceased arguing with. It receives the reality that feels like your own. This is why I do not want you to lie here, trying to produce the strongest emotion possible that can become another labor. Instead, seek the tone of possession, the tone of after, the tone of it has been mine long enough. The tone of this is simply my life now. This tone is quiet, but it is mighty. The old self believes that if the feeling is not intense, it is not working. But intensity is not the measure. Naturalness is the measure. If you can feel the desire as natural, you have moved very far. If you can feel it as ordinary, you have allowed it to enter your identity. If you can sleep from the state where it no longer surprises you, you have given the subconscious something profound. The child does not marvel at his own name every hour, yet he knows it. The owner does not question the chair he sits upon, yet it is his. A man does not hope that yesterday happened, yet he remembers it. This is the quiet yes of what is known. Let your desire become known. Let it become part of your remembered life. Let it become normal. Let it become familiar. Let it become incorporated into I am. If there is resistance, do not fight it. Resistance often means the old state is still accustomed to distance, so go gently. Do not force the desire to feel normal all at once. Introduce it softly. Visit the ordinary after. Sit there for a moment. Breathe from it. Each return makes it less foreign. Each return teaches the body that fulfillment is safe. Each return teaches the mind that the desire can belong. Do not say, "This feels too good to be true." That phrase means you are still making good foreign to your identity. Say instead, "Let it become natural. Let it become mine. Let it become familiar. Let me dwell in the life where this good is no longer strange." If the good feels strange, stay until it softens. Do not leave the state because it is unfamiliar. The unfamiliar becomes familiar by occupation. A new house may feel strange on the first night. The walls, the sounds, the light, the arrangement of rooms may not yet feel like home, but remain there, sleep there, wake there, walk there, sit there, and soon the house becomes home. So it is with a state. The first time you enter supply, love, health, success, freedom, or peace, let the fulfilled state become home. Do not stop at the arrival. Go beyond it. This phrase is a guide. Whenever the mind shows you the first moment, say gently, "Beyond this." If you see the first proof, go beyond it. If you see the first word, go beyond it. If you see the first open door, go beyond it. Ask, "What is my life like after this has become natural? How do I feel months after? What is ordinary now? What no longer frightens me? How does the fulfilled self move when the desire is no longer new?" These questions take you out of performance and into being. They carry you from the threshold into the dwelling. They place your consciousness not in the excitement of getting, but in the quiet possession of having. The moment of receiving may still contain becoming. The ordinary after contains being. Let being become more important than receiving. For receiving is an event, but being is a state. States generate worlds. If you identify only with receiving, you may still feel the desire as an event that must happen. If you identify with being, the desire has already become part of what you are. This is what the law answers. The law answers the one who is supplied, not the one endlessly waiting to receive supply. The law answers the one who is loved, not the one endlessly waiting to receive love. The law answers the one who is whole, not the one endlessly waiting to receive healing. The law answers the one who is successful, not the one endlessly waiting to receive success. The law answers the one who is free, not the one endlessly waiting to receive freedom. Therefore, become inwardly the one who lives after receiving. Become the one for whom the desire is already part of life. Become the one who remembers the arrival because he no longer stands before it. Become the one who rests beyond it. This is the ordinary after. The ordinary after is sacred possession. It is the miracle made home. It is the desire becoming identity. It is the answered prayer becoming atmosphere. It is the state no longer needing to announce itself because it has become natural. The anxious mind may say, "But I want to feel a great joy." Let joy come if it comes, but do not make joy a condition. Sometimes the deepest joy is quiet. Sometimes it is the absence of fear. Sometimes it is the ability to breathe. Sometimes it is the simple ease of no longer asking. Sometimes joy has no noise at all. It is only peace with a light within it. Before sleep, this quiet joy is enough. The ordinary after may feel like relief, safety, warmth, ease, rest, belonging, dignity, or simple knowing. Let that be enough. Do not demand that the feeling impress you. Let it receive you. Let it be a place you lie down inside. Enter. Perhaps you are months beyond the arrival. The boxes are unpacked. The relationship is familiar. The work has rhythm. The body is at peace. The provision is normal. The freedom is lived. The success has settled. The old question feels far behind you, not because you forced it away, but because you have moved beyond it in consciousness. From there, if you look back, the moment of arrival becomes history. It is not a hope. It is a memory. You may say, I remember when the door opened. I remember when I first understood it was done. But you say it from a life beyond that moment. You say it as one who has lived with the blessing long enough to know it belongs. This is the power of the ordinary after. It makes the fulfilled state stable. It makes the desire less like a visitor and more like a dwelling. It removes the nervousness of newness. It teaches the subconscious that fulfillment is not a sudden exception to your life, but your normal condition. Let this be your inner work tonight. Not effort, not strain, not forced excitement, a gentle movement beyond arrival. If you see the money arriving, go beyond it to the life of supply. If you see love beginning, go beyond it to the life of belonging. If you see healing starting, go beyond it to the life of wholeness. If you see success appearing, go beyond it to the life of establishment. If you see freedom beginning, go beyond it to the life of open air. If you see peace returning, go beyond it to the life of quietness. Go beyond the first moment. Go beyond the threshold. Go beyond the surprise. Go beyond the proof. Enter the ordinary after. And in that ordinary after, allow the desire to become normal. Normal in the body. Normal in the breath. Normal enough that you can sleep. Normal enough that you can stop asking when. Normal enough that you can remember it instead of chasing it. When your desire feels normal, the subconscious accepts it more easily. So make it normal tonight. Not by reducing it, but by accepting it. Not by making it small, but by making it yours. A king does not marvel every hour at his crown if he knows himself to be king. A man does not marvel at breathing if he knows life as natural. Let the desire become natural in the same way. Let it belong. And if it belongs, you need not hold it tightly. You need not fear losing it. You need not keep waking yourself to make sure it is there. You may rest. You may sleep. You may let the subconscious receive the state of natural possession. This is why I say again, do not stop at the arrival. Go beyond it. The arrival is a door. The ordinary after is the room. The arrival is a beginning. The arrival may contain becoming. The ordinary after contains being. Enter being. Enter the life where it has been yours long enough to feel natural. Lie here as that one. Breathe as that one. Let the body stop acting as though the desire is far. Let the mind stop acting as though the answer is shocking. Let the heart stop acting as though good is foreign. Let fulfillment feel normal. Let possession feel normal. Let being loved feel normal. Let being supplied let being whole feel normal. Let being successful feel normal. Let being free feel normal. Let being at peace feel normal. And as it becomes normal within, it becomes easier to carry into sleep. And what is carried into sleep as natural sinks deeply. And what sinks deeply as natural begins to form the world that will one day seem obvious, as though it could never have been otherwise. Now rest in the ordinary after. Rest where the desire is no longer a rest where it is not new. Rest where it belongs. Rest where it has been yours long enough to feel natural. Rest where the subconscious can receive it. Rest where the fulfilled self no longer says, when will it happen? Rest where the fulfilled self quietly remembers, it did. Now, having entered the ordinary after, let us learn how to form the little memory that will carry you into sleep. Not a great drama, not a long story, not a procession of events, not an entire life imagined from beginning to end. Only one small remembered moment, selected from the fulfilled life, held gently enough that it feels true, simple, and already lived. Create not a fantasy, but a memory. Let that be the first instruction. Create not a fantasy, but a memory. Fantasy often looks ahead. It may be beautiful, but it may still remain outside you. It may still be watched from a distance. It may still contain the feeling of wishing, of admiring, of hoping, of wondering whether it can be. But memory has another quality. Memory does not stand far off. Memory belongs. Memory has entered the inner record. Memory has the quiet authority of something known. So tonight, do not try to entertain the mind. Do not try to impress yourself with a grand picture. Do not arrange a whole play in the theater of imagination. Choose one simple scene that would be true after the desire has been fulfilled. Choose one little moment that implies everything. Choose a moment that could only happen because the thing is done. Then give that moment the feeling of recollection. Say inwardly, I remember when it became real. Say it softly, I remember when it became real. Not, I wonder when it will become real. Not, I hope it becomes real. Not, I am trying to make it real. I remember when it... These words move you at once. They move you from before to after. They move you from waiting to knowing. They move you from desire as future to desire as remembered fact. And if you say them gently enough, not as a command, but as a recollection, the body may begin to understand. The scene must be short. This is very important. A long imaginal scene often tempts the mind to wander into process. It begins with the end, then suddenly it tries to arrange the road. It wonders who said what, when they said it, what happened before, what must happen next, how the whole matter unfolded, whether the details are correct. And before you know it, the mind has left the fulfilled state and returned to the old habit of managing life. Do not let the scene become a long road. A memory can be brief and still complete. A few seconds can imply the whole fulfillment. One sentence heard inwardly can imply the answer. One object touched can imply possession. One breath of relief can imply the burden has lifted. One morning after can imply the entire change. The subconscious does not require a long explanation. It receives the implication. It receives the state. It receives the feeling that it is done. Let the scene have the quiet weight of something already lived. Quiet weight, not forced emotion, not a fevered attempt to feel everything at once. The quiet weight of something already lived. When you remember yesterday, it may not dazzle, yet it is real to you. It has weight. It belongs to the inner record. This is the feeling you seek. Let your chosen scene have that same weight. Let it feel like something that has already passed through the gate of experience and settled into the fabric of your life. Perhaps the memory is of a call. In my day, one might hear the telephone ring and receive a word that changed the whole matter. Do not imagine the waiting for the call. Do not imagine pacing the room, wondering whether it will come. Go beyond that. The call has already come. You are remembering it from after. You remember the sound of the voice. You remember one sentence. You remember the way your body released when you heard it. You remember placing the receiver down afterward and sitting for a moment in silence, knowing the answer had arrived. This can be enough. You need not hear every word. Perhaps only one phrase remains. It is settled. You have been accepted. It is yours. Everything is arranged. I am so happy for you. The words are less important than what they imply. They imply that the desire is no longer uncertain. They imply that something has passed from hope into fact. They imply that the old question has ended. So you hear the phrase again, softly, as a memory, and you let the feeling of after fill the body. Perhaps the memory is of a letter. You hold it in your hands. You do not imagine waiting for it. You do not imagine wondering when it will arrive. You are already beyond arrival. The letter is already opened. The words have already been read. The answer is known. Perhaps you remember the feel of the paper, the stillness of the room, the breath you took when you understood what it meant. Perhaps one line stands out. It is confirmed. It is granted. It is done. You read it not as one hoping, but as one remembering the moment confirmation came. A letter may be a very powerful imaginal memory, because it gives the mind a simple object to hold. The hand, the page, the line, the feeling after reading. But again, do not make it too complex. You need not write a whole letter in imagination. One line may be enough. One glance may be enough. One moment of knowing may be enough. Let it be brief, credible, and final. Perhaps the memory is of a morning after. This is often more powerful. Imagine that the desire has already been fulfilled, and now it is the next morning, or many mornings after. You wake, and it is still true. That is a sacred feeling. The blessing has not vanished. The answer was not a dream. The change remains. You open your eyes in the quiet, and there is a deep, simple knowing it is done, and it is still done. If it is love, perhaps you remember waking in peace, no longer feeling rejected, knowing the relationship is settled or the love is present in your life. If it is supply, perhaps you remember the first morning without the old financial pressure tightening the chest. If it is health, perhaps you remember waking and realizing the body is no longer a center of fear. If it is success, perhaps you remember waking as one whose new place in life is real. If it is freedom, perhaps you remember the morning when the burden no longer owned your thoughts. The morning after carries the feeling of permanence. It says, this was not merely a moment, it became my life. Perhaps the memory is of a conversation, not the difficult conversation before fulfillment, not the pleading, not the explanation, not the uncertain talk where the desire is still being negotiated. Choose the conversation after, the conversation that could only happen because the desire is done. Someone says, I knew it would work out. Someone says, you seem different now. Someone says, I am glad everything is settled. Someone says, this is wonderful. Or perhaps you say it yourself, I remember when I thought this was impossible, and now look how natural it has become. The conversation should not be long. One exchange may be enough. One sentence may carry the whole state. Hear it from your own point. Do not watch yourself as though you were seated in a theater. Be there. Hear the voice speaking to you. Feel the meaning land within you. Feel the relief that belongs to the one who has already passed beyond the uncertainty. Perhaps the memory is not of a voice or a letter at all, but of a sensation of relief. You sit quietly in a room, and the old pressure is gone. No one speaks. Nothing dramatic happens. You simply know. Everything has worked out. The breath is deeper. The shoulders are lower. The heart is quiet. There is no need to ask what happened, because you are remembering from after it happened. This kind of scene may be the simplest and deepest of all, because it does not depend on many details. It depends upon the state. Do not underestimate a sensation. A feeling of relief can imply the whole fulfillment. If you have been worried about money, relief means provision. If you have been longing for love, relief means belonging. If you have been afraid concerning the body, relief means peace. If you have been uncertain about work or success, relief means the door opened. If you have been bound by some condition, relief means freedom. The feeling of relief may be your memory. Relief says, it is behind me. Relief says, the question ended. Relief says, I have crossed. Relief says, I remember when it became real. Now you may wonder how to choose the right scene. Do not ask yourself only, what small moment would be true after my desire had been fulfilled? What moment would imply that the thing is no longer future? What would I remember from the life where it is already mine? What would feel natural enough to repeat before sleep? If the scene leaves you still waiting, it is not the scene. If the scene is about trying to get the desire, it is not the scene. If the scene feels like a long, complicated journey, shorten it, move beyond it. Find the moment after. Find the little fact. Find the sound, the touch, the look, the breath, the phrase, the quiet knowledge that implies completion. You are not inventing. You are recognizing the fulfilled state. This must be understood. You are not inventing. You are recognizing the fulfilled state. At the level of the senses, you may say, this has not appeared. At the level of consciousness, the fulfilled state exists now. Your imaginal memory is not a falsehood offered to the deep. It is the selection of a state in the eternal present. You are giving the subconscious the form of what you choose to occupy. You are saying, this is the reality I accept. This is the self I remember. This is the life I now enter. The mind may call it imagination. I call imagination the creative reality. The outer world is the echo. The outer world is the shadow. Imagination is the substance. When you construct a memory of the fulfilled life, you are not merely playing with pictures. You are taking the inner position that the outer world must eventually reflect, if you persist in it. Let the scene be believable, not because the senses have already confirmed it, but because the state feels natural to consciousness. A memory does not need to be extravagant. The more ordinary it is, the more easily it may enter. If your scene feels too grand and causes resistance, simplify it. Do not imagine a room filled with applause if a quiet word of congratulations feels more natural. Do not imagine a dramatic rescue if sitting peacefully after the burden has lifted feels more true. Do not imagine every possible proof if one gentle confirmation is enough. The fulfilled life often announces itself in simple moments. A look, a word, a morning, a call, a letter. The moment when the body says, I am no longer before this, I am after it. Now, let us walk through the forming of such a memory, slowly, as though you were already preparing for sleep. First, choose the desire. Do not choose with panic. Let the desire that matters most tonight come quietly to the surface. Perhaps it is love, perhaps supply, perhaps health, perhaps work, perhaps success, perhaps freedom, perhaps peace. Do not choose many. One is the mind can enter one room more easily than many rooms at once. Now move beyond the arrival. Do not see it just beginning. Do not see the first uncertain sign. Move past it. It has already happened. It has been done long enough that life has continued. You are living after. The desire has settled. It is not strange. It is not foreign. It is yours. Now ask, what do I remember from when it became real? Let the answer come softly. Perhaps a conversation. Perhaps waking the morning after. Perhaps sitting quietly, feeling the burden gone. Let the scene rise. It may be faint. That is well. It need not be brilliant, it needs only to imply the end. Now enter it from within. If it is a call, hear the voice in your own ear. If it is a letter, see it from your own eyes. If it is a morning, feel yourself waking in your own body. If it is a conversation, hear the words spoken. If it is relief, feel it in your own chest, your own breath, your own shoulders. Do not watch yourself from outside. Be the one who remembers. Now say inwardly, I remember when it became real. Let the scene answer that sentence. I remember when it became real. The call came, the letter arrived, the word was spoken, the body rested, the burden lifted, the morning was quiet, the conversation was easy, the door had opened. I remember. Do let it end in completion. Then repeat it gently, not like a machine, like recollection. Again the voice, again the line, again the breath, again the morning, again the relief. Each repetition should make the state more familiar, not more tense. If tension rises, you are likely trying too hard. Soften. Return to the feeling of yesterday. It happened. It is known. It needs no pressure. Let the scene have the quiet weight of something already lived. There is no need to make the scene perfect. A memory can be imperfect and still certain. You may remember the voice without exact words. You may remember the letter without seeing every line. You may remember the morning without seeing the room clearly. You may remember the relief without any image at all. Certainty does not require perfect detail. The state matters more than the picture. If the picture fades, remain in the state. If the words blur, remain in the meaning. If the scene dissolves as sleep nears, let the feeling carry you. Perhaps the final thing you have before sleep is not a clear image, but a soft knowing. It became real. I remember. That is enough. The subconscious receives what is accepted, not what is artistically perfect. Many fail to enter the end because they try to make imagination too grand. They think that if the scene is not vivid, it has no power. But vividness without acceptance is weak. A simple scene accepted as memory is strong. The law responds to the state of consciousness, not to theatrical display. If your little memory gives you the feeling of done, it has served its purpose. Now let us feel the difference between fantasy and memory. Fantasy may say, would it not be wonderful if this happened? Memory says, I remember when it did. Fantasy may paint many colors, but still leave you outside. Memory may be quiet, but place you within. Fantasy may excite longing. Memory settles possession. Fantasy asks the future to arrive. Memory has already crossed the threshold. Create not a fantasy, but a memory. If you want wealth, create not a fantasy of riches floating before you. Create the memory of the burden finally lifted. A small scene. You sit quietly after the matter is settled, remembering the call or letter that changed it. You think, I remember when it came through. I remember how relieved I was. That was when everything began to feel different. Let that be enough. If you want love, create not a fantasy of being adored from afar. Create the memory of love already peaceful. A small scene, a conversation after harmony returned, a hand in yours, a simple sentence that means you are chosen. You think, I remember when love stopped feeling uncertain. I remember when it became easy. Let that be enough. If you want health, create not a fantasy of battling the body into submission. Create the memory of wholeness becoming natural. A small scene, a morning where you realize the fear is gone. A walk taken easily, a quiet thought. I remember when my body became peaceful again. Let that be enough. If you want success, create not a fantasy of endless applause. Create the memory of being established. A small scene, someone congratulates you, or you sit after the work is accepted, thinking, I remember when the door opened. I remember when it became my life. Let that be enough. If you want work, position, or right place, create not a fantasy of searching. Create the memory of belonging. A small scene, a first day already behind you. A conversation where someone speaks to you as one who belongs there. The feeling of knowing, this is my place now. Let that be enough. If you want freedom, create not a fantasy of struggle. Create the memory of release. A small scene. You breathe in the quiet, aware that the old burden is gone. Thinking, I remember when I realized I was free. Let that be enough. The phrase I remember when is a key because it changes your direction. Use it softly. I remember when it became real. I remember when it was settled. I remember when the door opened. I remember when the answer came. I remember when the burden lifted. I remember when love became peaceful. I remember when my body was at ease. I remember when my place was given. I remember when I knew it was done. Do not rush these phrases. Each one should feel like a small descent into the after. Say one, then feel. Say one, then let the scene rise. Say one, then allow the body to answer. The words are not for the intellect only, they are for the whole inner man. When you say, I remember when it became real, notice what happens if you truly allow it. The mind may stop reaching forward. The body may soften. The feeling of distance may lessen. The desire may seem less like a star above you and more like something already woven into your path. This is the beginning of the memory taking form. Now, if the old mind objects and says, but you do not remember this, do not argue long. The old mind speaks from the senses. It only knows the record of the outer world. But you are learning the record of consciousness. You are selecting the fulfilled state and giving it the feeling of memory. Say gently, I am not taking instruction from the old record tonight. I am recognizing the fulfilled state. I am entering the life where this has happened. I am remembering from there. You are not inventing. You are recognizing the fulfilled state. Let the old mind rest. It has worked hard. It has tried to protect you by repeating evidence. It has asked how and when. It has watched the road. But tonight, you are not asking it to guard the road. You are inviting it to sleep in the after. You are giving it one small memory to hold, like a lamp in the dark. The memory should be sensory, but not complicated. Sensory means it has some touch of lived experience. A voice, a line on a page, a hand resting, the warmth of a room, the morning light, the feeling in the chest after relief, the quiet of sitting and knowing. These little things help the state feel inhabited. But do not make sensory detail into labor. One sensory impression is enough. The feel of the paper may be enough. The light of the morning may be enough. The breath of relief may be enough. The words, it is done, may be enough. A true memory often comes as a fragment. The fragment carries the whole. A fragrance may bring back a house. A phrase may bring back a friendship. A touch may bring back a day. In the same way, one tiny imaginal fragment can carry the whole fulfilled life. Do not despise the fragment if it implies completion and feels accepted. Tonight, the seed may be very small. You may choose a sentence. I remember when it became real. You may choose a breath. I remember the relief. You may choose a letter. I remember reading the answer. You may choose a morning. I remember waking and knowing it was still true. You may choose a conversation. I remember hearing them say it worked out. Whatever you choose, let it point to the fulfilled fact. And once chosen, do not keep changing it anxiously. The anxious mind likes to search for a better scene, a stronger scene, a more powerful scene, as though power were hidden in novelty. But repetition gives familiarity. Familiarity gives naturalness. Naturalness gives acceptance. Choose gently, then return. Let the same little memory become worn smooth by use, like a stone carried in the hand. Let it become yours. If another scene arises naturally and more deeply expresses the end, you may allow it, but do not wander endlessly. The night is for descent, not for selection without rest. Choose the door and enter. Let the scene have the quiet weight of something already lived. You may now begin to see that the fulfilled memory is not a fantasy, because it does not ask to remain distant. It invites identity. It says, this happened to me. It became part of my life. It changed the way I sleep, the way I breathe, the way I remember myself. It is not merely an image, it is an inner fact accepted. This is the memory of the fulfilled life. It is short enough to repeat. It is simple enough to sleep with. It is after the fulfillment. It is seen and felt from within. It is sensory enough to be inhabited. It is quiet enough to be believed by the deep. It is natural enough to belong. Now, as the night deepens, let the practice become even softer. You need not hold all the instructions. Let them dissolve into one movement. Choose the fulfilled life. Move beyond the arrival. Look back. Remember one moment. Say, I remember when it became real. Feel the quiet weight. Rest. Again gently. I remember when it became real. The call came. The letter was read. The morning was peaceful. The conversation was easy. The burden lifted. The body rested. The door opened. The answer arrived. I remember. Let the memory repeat without effort. Let it become familiar. Let the body believe the tone before the mind tries to explain. Let the subconscious receive the simple fact, this is already done in consciousness. This is already part of me. This is no longer future. This is remembered. And if sleep approaches, do not hold it away. Sleep is not an interruption of the method. Sleep is the carrying of the method into the deep. If the last thing you feel is the little memory, if the last inner movement is I remember when, if the last state is after, then the seed has entered the soil. Create not a fantasy, but a memory. Say inwardly, I remember when it became real. Let the scene have the quiet weight of something already lived. You are not inventing, you are recognizing the fulfilled state. Let these words become less like instruction and more like music now. I remember when it became real. I remember when it became mine. I remember when everything changed. I remember the call. I remember the letter. I remember the morning after. I remember the conversation. I remember the relief. I remember. And in that remembering, you may rest as though the desire has already crossed the threshold into your life. You may rest as though the future has become memory. You may rest as though the fulfilled state has found its place within you. One simple memory is enough tonight. One quiet scene, one remembered fact, one small doorway into the fulfilled life. Enter it gently. Remember it softly. Sleep from it deeply. And now, my friend, let everything become softer. Let the teaching become let the words become softer. Let even the desire become softer. There is nothing more to force tonight. There is nothing more to prove. There is nothing more to chase through the corridors of time. You have heard enough for the waking mind. Now let the deeper mind receive. Let the body rest. Let the eyes grow heavy. Let the old world drift farther from authority. Let the senses grow quiet in the presence of the state already accepted. I remember. Let that be enough. I remember. Not as one trying to make something happen, not as one standing outside the door, not as one begging the future to open. I remember as one who has already passed beyond the question. I remember as one who has already entered the after. I remember as one who no longer needs to reach forward through time, because the fulfilled life has already been touched in consciousness. It has already happened in consciousness. Let this sentence descend gently. It has already happened in consciousness. Before the outer world has arranged its evidence, before the visible signs have gathered, before the echo has returned, it has already happened in consciousness. The state has been entered, the end has been remembered, the inner fact has been given to the deep, and the deep does not need your strain. The deep receives, it has already happened in consciousness. I do not wait, I remember, I do not wait, I remember. Waiting belongs to the old position. Waiting belongs to the one who stands before the event. Waiting belongs to the one who says, someday, later, not yet, when. But I do not wait tonight. I remember. I remember the desire as done. I remember the answer as given. I remember the door as opened. I remember the burden as lifted. I remember the fulfilled state as mine. I do not wait. I remember. Let the mind become quiet around this. If a thought tries to ask when, let it dissolve into I remember. If a thought tries to ask how, let it dissolve into I remember. If a thought tries to measure the outer world, let it dissolve into I remember. There is no argument now. There is no need to win a debate with appearances. The night is not for debate. The night is for rest. I do not reach forward. I rest in the after. I do not reach forward. I rest in the after. I do not stretch myself toward a distant tomorrow. I do not lean toward an event that has not arrived. I do not hold my breath at the edge of time. I rest in the after. I rest in the life beyond the arrival. I rest in the ordinary fulfilled state where the desire is already natural. I rest where it has been mine long enough to feel familiar. I rest in the after the answer, after the arrival, after the door opened, after the burden lifted, after love became certain, after supply became natural, after the body became peaceful, after success became established, after peace returned. I rest in the after. The fulfilled life is already mine. Let the body hear that quietly. The fulfilled life is already mine. Not because the senses have finished speaking, not because the world has given permission, not because time has made its announcement. The fulfilled life is already mine in consciousness. The state exists, the state is entered, the state is remembered, the state is carried into sleep. The fulfilled life is already mine, not as a thing as a state I occupy, not as a future I beg for, as a memory I return to, not as a promise outside me, as a fact within me. The fulfilled life is already mine, and because it is mine in consciousness, I may sleep. I may stop leaning. I may stop asking. I may stop carrying the road upon my shoulders. I may stop watching the night for signs. I may stop rehearsing the old story. I may stop giving tomorrow my peace. I may sleep as the one who remembers. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. It does not need the whole road. It does not need the calendar. It does not need the outer witness. It receives the remembered fact. It receives the little memory. It receives the quiet scene. It receives the feeling of already done. It receives the body resting after the fulfillment. It receives the sentence, I remember when it became real. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. It receives love as already certain. It receives supply as already natural. It receives wholeness as already peaceful. It receives success as already established. It receives right place as already given. It receives freedom as already lived. It receives peace as already returned. It receives the fulfilled state now. My subconscious receives the remembered fact, and I do not interfere. I do not dig up the seed. I do not disturb the soil. I do not ask the dark to explain its work. I do not demand that the roots speak before morning. I give the seed to the deep, and I rest. The bridge is forming while I sleep. Let this be soft. The bridge is forming while I sleep. The way is arranging itself while I sleep. The unseen is moving while I sleep. The law is not waiting for my anxiety. The law works in the silence. The law does not require me to stay awake in fear. The law does not require me to plan every step. The law responds to the state accepted. The law receives the remembered fact and moves through the quiet ways of life. The bridge is forming while I sleep. It may form through a thought. It may form through a word. It may form through a meeting. It may form through a letter. It may form through a change of heart. It may form through an opportunity. It may form through a door I did not know was near. It may form through ordinary means. It may form through a way my waking mind would never have designed. But I do not need to know tonight. The bridge is forming while I sleep. The law works in the silence. The law works in the silence. The seed works in the dark. The roots move unseen. The stars do not shout. The deep does not boast. The truest movements are often hidden before they are revealed. I trust the silence. I trust the state. I trust the remembered fact. I trust the after. I trust the law that operates beneath appearances. The law works in the silence. While my body rests, the law works. While my mind softens, the law works. While my eyes close, the law works. While the old story fades, the law works. While I sleep as the fulfilled one, the law works. The law works in the silence. And I am not separate from the law. The law is the order of consciousness. The law is the faithfulness of imagination. The law is the certainty that what is accepted within must find its expression without. The law is not outside me as a it is the living truth of I am, and I am now remembers. I remember. It has already happened in consciousness. I do not wait. I remember. I do not reach forward. I rest in the after. The fulfilled life is already mine. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. The bridge is forming while I sleep. The law works in the silence. Let these phrases circle gently, like a quiet tide. I remember. It is done. I remember. It is settled. I remember. I remember the door opened. I remember the burden lifted. I remember peace returned. There is no need to make the image bright now. There is no need to hold it sharply. If the scene becomes dim, let the feeling remain. If the words become slow, let the knowing remain. If the mind begins to drift, let it drift in the direction of already. If sleep comes, let sleep take the memory. If sleep comes, let sleep take the fulfilled state. If sleep comes, I rest in the memory of fulfillment. I rest in the memory of fulfillment, not in the memory of lack, not in the memory of waiting, not in the memory of rejection, not in the memory of fear, not in the memory of delay. I rest in the memory of fulfillment. I choose the inner record of the one who has already received. I choose the remembered fact. I choose the fulfilled life as my dwelling before sleep. I rest in the memory of fulfillment. The memory may be simple, a voice, a letter, a conversation, a breath, a room, a hand, a quiet knowing, a moment of relief, a feeling of yes. It does not need to be more. It carries the whole. I remember when it became real. I remember when it became mine. I remember when everything changed. I remember the quiet after. I remember the ordinary peace. I remember the life where it is natural. I remember. Let the body loosen now. Let the forehead soften. Let the eyes rest. Let the shoulders fall. Let the chest open. Let the breath become quiet. Let the heart stop reaching. Let the stomach release. Let the hands grow still. Let the legs become heavy. Let the whole body feel after. after the striving, after the waiting, after the question, after the road, after the proof, after the arrival, after I do not reach forward. I rest in the after. I rest where the desire is no longer strange. I rest where the answer is no longer shocking. I rest where the good has become familiar. I rest where fulfillment feels natural. I rest where the subconscious can receive. I rest where the deep knows what to do. I rest where the law works in silence. The fulfilled life is already mine. Let love be natural now. Let being chosen be natural now. Let affection be natural now. Let peace in the heart be natural now. Let provision be natural now. Let enough be natural now. Let wholeness be natural now. Let provision be natural. Let the body at peace be natural now. Let success be natural now. Let dignity be natural now. Let right work be natural now. Let belonging be natural now. Let freedom be natural now. Let open air within be natural now. Let rest be natural now. Let all this become ordinary in the holy sense. Ordinary because it belongs. Ordinary because it is mine. Ordinary because consciousness has accepted it. Ordinary because I remember. I wake as the one who remembers. I wake as the one who remembers it done. Not as the one beginning again from lack. Not as the one asking whether anything has changed. Not as the one searching the world for permission. I wake as the one who remembers it done. I wake with the state still within me. I wake with the inner fact still alive. I wake with the bridge already forming. I wake with the law already working. I wake as the fulfilled one remembering. I wake as the one who remembers it done. But I do not need to think of waking now. I do not need to travel even to morning. I can rest here. I can sink here. I can let the night hold me. I can let sleep come as a friend. I can let the deep receive. I can let the law work. I can let the bridge form. I can let the fulfilled memory descend. It is done. It is done. It is done. It is done. Not forced. Done. Not begged for. Done. Not someday. Done. Not far. Done in the after. Done in the remembered fact. It is done. The old world may speak tomorrow, but I do not take my name from the old world. The old evidence may appear, but I do not take my state from the old evidence. The echo may still repeat yesterday, but I do not bow to the echo. I have heard the voice. I have entered the state. I have remembered the end. I have given the deep the fulfilled fact. Now I rest. I rest in the memory of fulfillment. I rest in the memory of fulfillment as one rests in a familiar room. I do not stand outside knocking. I do not press my face against the window. I am within. I am inside the answered prayer. I am inside the fulfilled state. I am inside the quiet after. I am inside the memory of it done. I rest. The mind may grow quieter now. The words may become fewer. The feeling may become deeper. The scene may become soft. The body may become heavy. The night may be, and beneath all of it, the state remains. I remember. I remember. I remember. It has already happened in consciousness. It has already happened in consciousness. It has already happened in consciousness. I do not wait. I remember. I do not wait. I remember. I do not wait. I remember. I do not reach forward. I rest in the after. I do not reach forward. I rest in the after. I do not reach forward. I rest. The fulfilled life is already mine. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. The bridge is forming while I sleep. The bridge is forming while I sleep. The bridge is forming while I sleep. The law works in the silence. The law works in the silence. I wake as the one who remembers it done. I wake as the one who remembers it done. I wake as the one who remembers it done. I wake as the one who remembers it. It is done. It is done. It is done. I rest in the memory of fulfillment. I rest in the memory of fulfillment. I rest in the memory of fulfillment. Now, let there be no effort. Let there be no need to answer every thought. Let there be no need to hold the scene tightly. Let there be no need to finish anything. Let there be no need to perform. The fulfilled one does not perform. The fulfilled one remembers. The fulfilled one rests. The fulfilled one sleeps. The fulfilled one trusts the law in silence. I remember the fulfilled life as already mine. I remember the answer as already given. I remember the door as already opened. I remember the burden as already lifted. I remember love as already certain. I remember supply as already natural. I remember health as already peaceful. I remember success as already established. I remember freedom as already lived. I remember peace as already returned. I remember. Because I remember, I do not plead. Because I remember, I do not wait. Because I remember, I do not worship time. Because I remember, I do not ask the echo who I am. Because I remember, I return to the voice. Because I remember, I sleep from the end. Sleep from the end. Sleep from after. Sleep from already. Sleep from done. Sleep from the fulfilled life. Sleep from the remembered fact. Sleep from the quiet knowing. Sleep from the I am loved. I am whole. I am established. I am free. I am at peace. I am the one who remembers. I am the one who has received. I am the one who rests. And now even these words may fade. Fulfilled, remembered, received, settled, natural, already, done, rest, fulfilled, remembered, received, settled, natural, already, done, rest. Let the breath carry it. Already, let the heart carry. The law works in the silence. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. The fulfilled life is already mine. I do not reach forward. I rest in the after. I do not wait. I remember. It has already happened in consciousness. I remember. I remember. I remember. Let sleep come now without resistance. Let sleep come as the servant of the fulfilled state. Let sleep come as the quiet river, carrying the seed into the deep. Let sleep come as the night's agreement with the inner. Let sleep come as the soft closing of the door upon the old world, and the opening of the deeper door within. There is nothing to chase now. There is nothing to force now. There is nothing to solve now. There is nothing to prove now. There is only the remembered fact. There is only the fulfilled state. There is only the after. There is only I am. I remember. It is done. I rest. I remember. It is done. I rest. I remember. It is done. I rest. And as I rest, the law works. As I rest, the bridge forms. As I rest, the deep receives. As I rest, the state becomes natural. As I rest, the fulfilled life settles within me. As I rest, the old distance fades. As I rest, the future becomes memory. As I rest, consciousness knows. It has already happened in consciousness. It has already happened in consciousness. It has already happened in consciousness. I do not wait. I remember. I do not chase. I know. I do not ask when. I sleep in the after. I do not ask how. The bridge is forming. I do not ask whether. It is done. Now, let the final words be simple. I remember. It is done. I rest. I remember. It is done. I rest. The fulfilled life is already mine. My subconscious receives the remembered fact. The bridge is forming while I sleep. The law works in the silence. I remember. It is done. I rest. I remember. It is done. I rest.